What if Naruto was lost son of Aphrodite? Part 2. The warehouse filled with smoke and the three demigods found themselves witnesses to something amazing. The Cyclops were being dogpiled by a swarm of orange clones, definitely massing in over 50 in number. So lucky. Percy whined, he would love that ability. Naruto, one of them at least, was stabbing Ma through the foot with his stave when he looked up. Go? I'll catch up later, just go. He really is a one-man army. Piper said in awe. Leo ran past her and grabbed Jason's wrist, pulling him out of the warehouse before grabbing Piper's and pulling them with him. He let go after they cleared a few feet, breaking into a run. Wow, Leo, Annabeth frowned at the boy. What? We probably made a plan. Come on. You heard, Naruto. We've got to go, Leo said over his shoulder. Piper and Jason exchanged a look, looked back at the warehouse, and then ran back to the warehouse, making Leo stop and grab at his head. Ow. Why does everyone have to be a hero? It's in the blood, said everyone. The three of them stopped as the side of the warehouse exploded, a good dozen and a half of orange bodies flying out and landing on the street before exploding into clouds of smoke. Jason had his coin out at the ready and Piper was holding her dagger. Out stumbled the shorter of the two Cyclops, Torque, holding his head and covered in dust. Stupid barrels, stupid fire, told Sump not to put fire dear. Does he listen? Torque grumbled. He looked up at the tree. Demigods and glared at them. Orange brat fight and Ma, so I guess Dad leaves me to fight you three. And he will go down. Piper grinned, but frowned, sorta. Down 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 down. Apollo sang out. Jay. Wanna do some Thunder God kid stuff and zap this guy? Leo asked. Jason flipped his coin in preparation to do that, but was sent flying before he could catch it by a piece of rubble being kicked to his gut. Goal. Ares cheered, arms in the air while laughing, his father glaring at him. Leo looked at the pinned and struggling Jason and then back at the Cyclops. You friggin'. Torque. Ma figured it out, the taller Cyclops said as she walked out with the struggling Naruto in her grasp. Gasp. The Lady of Doves said. How'd he get caught? Percy said with slight disbelief since Naruto was a lot tougher than that. Hit the orange brats hard enough and they go up in smoke. It's magic. Got ourselves a son of trivia here. Wrong. Aphrodite corrected with a frown. Magic meat is yummy. Torque said, grinning at the demigod in Ma's hand. I'm not a son of trivia, Naruto said, glaring at Torque. Meat is meat. Torque said in return as he took the boy from Ma, squeezing him in his two hands. Naruto felt his ribs being crushed and bit on his cheek to keep from screaming or biting his tongue. Well, that's not good, Leo said under his breath, backing up to stand near Jason as the son of Zeus struggled underneath the debris pinning him down. Wind blast, Jason. Zeus said. Well, I don't remember. Hera frowned at that. I took memories, not combat training, Jason, URK. Put him down, Piper said to the Cyclops. Torque looked at her and she repeated herself. I said put him down, now. Listen to my charming voice, go Piper, her mother cheered gleefully. Okay, Torque said, starting to lessen his grip. Ha! Ma grabbed Torque's wrist and hissed at him. Boo, what the pit is wrong with you? She asked, snatching Naruto back from her son. You fool, she's a Venus brat. Got that special talking thing, messin' with your head. Special talking. The love goddess said in distaste. Leave it to a monster to degrade her power. Sorry Ma. I'll hold him again. Not like I'll give ya the chance, Ma said with a glare locked on Torque, who flinched under her angered gaze. She nodded and looked back at the groaning blonde in her grasp. Usually I like 'em cooked and with salsa, but a few raw here and there ain't so bad. The demigod's eyes widened in horror. Piper easily guessed what she was thinking, as did Jason and Leo, the three of them watching in horror as Naruto was brought headfirst to Ma's mouth. Ma chomped down, a sickening crack filling the air as she did, accompanied by Piper's scream. Well, he died fast, Ares said, getting a burning glare from his girlfriend. Wah. He did, he was being honest. A month. Babe. Ma's smug smirk was turned into a look of confusion then pain as she started to cough, smoke leaving her mouth and her hand. Phew, that was close. Ninja tricks for the win. Annabeth beamed, "Go Naruto." The three demigods looked above them, where on the side of a building stood the blonde son of Aphrodite, watching the Cyclops hack on the wisps of smoke that remained from his clone. He was glad to see the three show the same dynamics a good team would have. "Thank you." The three rescuers of Hera beamed, but he was a bit miffed Jason and Piper didn't trust him to handle himself like Leo did. "Yeah," Leo scolded his two friends, getting mock glares back. Then again, it wasn't like he offered his plan forward to them like he did Leo, well, partially anyway. "See," Leo glared at Annabeth, "a plan." Annabeth flushed, "Sorry," she mumbled. Letting Ma dispel his clones and take a real one hostage after he blew up part of the building with an improvised explosion. From the Bunshin Daibakuha, Great Clone Explosion, was a spur-of-the-moment decision, but he wanted to see just how good team dynamics were. "He tested us." Jason blinked. "Seems so." Piper nodded, but still, she wished it wasn't an actually combat situation. "Dude, when was that part of the plan?" Leo asked, looking severely annoyed. "I thought the plan was distract the Cyclops, get Jason and Piper out, let you distract them until we get to Festus with that clone you left there and then you'd blow up the warehouse." "That's a good plan." Athena nodded. "Quick, simple, but sometimes that's the best," her daughter agreed. "Meh, I improvise," Naruto said, shrugging. "Ass." "Hey, that's not nice, Leo," Naruto said, frowning. "Besides, I have a great ass, Nissa said so." "Ah," Leo groaned, palming his face, "I don't need to hear this." "Dude." "What?" "That's my sister, exactly." "What?" "That's what she said," Naruto said innocently, obviously confused as to why Leo was mad at him. "Dense moron." Leo grumbled with crossed arms, while Leo visibly restrained himself from throwing his sledgehammer at the blonde. Piper was having her own inner dilemma. Did she hug Naruto in relief that he was alive or choke him for scaring her half to death? "Hug, then choke. You'll be closer to do it that way," Piper suggested to her other. "Enough," Ma shouted, looking rightly pissed off at the whiskered blonde. "I'll slaughter you first. I won't even defile my stomach with your skin." "Thanks," Naruto said, sounding confused before snapping his fingers. "Oh, right, I forgot something." "What now?" Ma asked. "Jason, you can get up now," Naruto said, grinning as the debris pinning Jason down exploded into smoke. He grinned as the two Cyclops looked at the rising and sparking son of Zeus with mild concern. "I love the henge no jutsu." "It was a trick?" Percy asked. Jason shrugged. "A clone must have talked to me," he stated. Jason got to his feet and walked forward where his coin was on the ground. Torque glared at him and charged forward. Jason gave the coin a small flip, catching it and letting it unfold out into a sword, which he used to slice through the Cyclops' thick leg. Torque let out a pain-filled cry as he crumpled to the ground. The monster's cry was silenced when Naruto landed next to the Cyclops' head in a crouch, one of his staves impaling the creature through his soul eye, right into the brain. Torque fidgeted for a moment before going still. Why didn't he? Oh, Hazel realized, Thanatos. Ares snorted, he needs to stop getting caught. Moron. He had to send one of his to bail the god out of chains, just like he had done in the old days. Bronze jar. Hephaestus reminded him. Screw you cripple. You little shits. Ma said looking livid. I'll skin the both of you and return you to your parents. That got the gods to frown. Did she think they wouldn't destroy her for that? Not a smart move on your part, Naruto said, knowing just how offensive that was. Exactly, Athena ushered, foolhardy and arrogant. He stood up and pulled his stave out of Torque's head, watching as the Cyclops slowly turned to dust. He arched a brow and looked back at Ma. I got a question for you. How good are you at counting? What does that have to do with anything? Ma asked. She was stalking forward with the full intention of making good on her plans. Everything, Naruto said as 5 clones attacked her from behind. They impaled her hands and feet with their staves while the original Naruto reconnected his staves together and turned to face Leo. Would you like the honors? Oh, Leo smirked. Y'all gonna make me blush. Do you really have to ask? Leo said, walking forward and spinning his sledgehammer in his hand. He brought the sledgehammer back and swung it into Ma's head, caving in her forehead and getting splattered with black goo. It's in my mouth. That's what she said. Ares and Apollo said as one and high-fived with grins. Ares. Apollo. Worth it. The brothers grinned as Hestia scolded them. Piper looked disgusted while Naruto laughed at the now hacking Leo, the blonde's clones bursting into smoke while Ma slowly turned to golden dust. Jason shook his head in disbelief and opened his mouth to say something when his blue eyes locked on something very troubling. Is it me, or is he reforming? Jason asked, pointing at where Torque lay. Sure enough, the gold dust that had slowly been made was equally slowly going back to where it was, reforming the monster it used to be. That's so sucked, by the way. Leo pointed out. It really does. Nico nodded, but not for me since my weapon absorbs their essence. Lucky. That's not good, Leo said, after wiping the black goo off his face. That doesn't usually happen, does it? No, that's not supposed to happen at all. We need to go, Naruto said. Right behind you, Piper said, following her brother as he burst into a slow run. Jason and Leo swiftly followed after her. They got to Festus, who Leo took all but a second to power up, and climbed aboard before taking to the skies. Below them, there was an angered shout in Latin, then English calling for the blood of the whiskered warrior. Whiskers. Hermes roared with indignity with a shake of his fist. Hey, Talia said, looking annoyed, that's my other's thing. In Apollo Naruto, not Dait's Naruto. Apollo pointed out to annoy her. The fact still remains that I use it, my other, that is. So no copying. You are so not fun, Hermes pouted. Way to go, Naruto. You're now a kiddie superhero. Funny, Leo. Naruto said, chuckling. He yelped when he got elbowed harshly in the side. Ow, Piper, what was that for? He has to ask. Annabeth mused and looked to Percy for a moment and he groaned. I'm not that bad. So you say, seaweed brain. Annabeth retorted with a sly look and kiss his cheek, but I like it all the same. That, Naruto, was for making me think you got eaten, jerk. Naruto would spend most of the flight trying to get back in his sister's good graces. HMPH, he'll have to try harder. Well, Reina said, closing the book, I will admit, it was entertaining. See? Apollo grinned, reading time is fun time. Chapter 7 Disclaimer. I do not own Naruto or Percy Jackson. Reading. Phil Stillamour, The Lost Hero. Chapter 7. Windy Cities, Smelly Sewers and the Underground Princess. And now who is reading? Reina asked, her tone now mildly intrigued by the story. I got this, said Frank said, taking the book. Thank you, Jong. The praetor said. You can't honestly still be mad at me, Naruto said from where he sat behind Piper. I can very well be mad at you, Piper huffed, her mother nodding, loving some sibling drama. He had been trying for the whole flight to get her to drop the cold shoulder act. During his attempts, Leo told Jason about the woman he saw and the reason Festus wasn't working. Jason suggested they keep an eye out for the woman wherever they could. The daughter of Aphrodite turned around and glared at her brother, jabbing him in the chest with her finger. You faked your death, Piper said, her kaleidoscopic eyes narrowed and appearing a frightening shade of red. And that means she is really mad, Leo, and then used that to test us. It was a good test, Athena commented, getting Poseidon to snort. Of course you would side with him, the sea god commented. I have every right to be mad at you, yeah, but not talking to me isn't going to help with the quest, Naruto said. It is not very mature, Reina commented, somewhat mockingly, getting a glower from the daughter of love. From the front of their entourage, Leo snorted, dude, I would just drop it. Piper glowered at her brother, ignoring Leo's comment. Naruto, you pretended to be dead. What the hell gave you that bright idea? Tell us the tale of your mind, Apollo said dramatically, fanning his arm out. My sensei, Naruto said with a grin. Kakashi sensei did the same thing to me and my team on our first mission outside the village. I froze up and almost got myself killed. I needed to see how you guys would have reacted. Athena nodded, a good test since this is the first time two of you are out in the field. Piper opened and closed her mouth for a second before pouting and looking away. Her eyes went to the horse-like spirit that Festus was following and she huffed. I'm still mad at you. No, she's not. Aphrodite giggled, making her daughter pout along with her other. Naruto let a laugh escape him before he patted Piper on the head, getting her to pout at him. Stop it, I'm not a kid. Ma, you are in my eyes. Naruto said, pressing 2 fingers into her forehead in a light tap. Imoudo. Ah. The love goddess cooed at the image as Piper looked slightly pink in embarrassment. We need to focus. Jason said, his eyes following the Ventus that had been leading them to Chicago while Piper pushed Naruto back and he laughed. Jason patted Leo's shoulder. Might as well try to get some sleep. The dragon will follow the Ventus, right? Yeah, Festus will watch him. Leo said. He leaned forward and looked back. You won't let me fall? No, Leo. You're sure? Because I remember someone letting someone else fall. Yeah. Leo nodded as Jason rolled his eyes. I won't let you fall, Leo. Oh good. Leo let his eyes fall shut. I was worried for a second there. A few hours afterward, Naruto suggested the other two get some sleep after Leo woke up. He sent a pulse of chakra through Festus that would keep Jason and Piper attached to the bronze dragon. Leo was talking about some story he read about a ninja called Snake Eyes or something. Naruto tuned him out. Hey! Leo cried out in outrage. How dare he ignore his epic storytelling skills? Considering the sage wasn't a fan of snakes, even if that wasn't his mom's beef. Mine. Apollo nodded with no shame. Then again, most of his sisters seemed to think snakes were gross. Naruto leaned back, his head resting on the lower spine of Festus, and stared up at the clouds. They were dark and ugly. Poseidon looked to Zeus in amusement, getting the god king to scowl at his older brother. Not the usual white fluffs that he had come to appreciate alongside Shikamaru in Konoha. Blue eyes drifted shut for but a moment, snapping open with pupils that had slid slightly. Kurama was stirring. Yay? Frank questioned. Yay, Hazel nodded. The question now was why? Kurama had told Naruto that he had to reintegrate himself back into his former Jinchuriki's chakra coils and that it would take a while, but if there were any danger, Kurama would know and would wake again to help Naruto when he needed it most. So he'll be coming back soon, Jason noted knowingly. Considering that Naruto was seen as a monster among shinobi, even without his Biju-laden talents, the blonde was a bit afraid that he would be unable to speak to his friend again. Naruto lifted his hand and focused on the palm, pulling on the small pulse he felt. He stared at his palm for what felt like hours before a small orange flame of chakra appeared in the center, right over the circular tattoo. Hey, that's my shtick. Leo Mach complained. Kurama? Naruto asked, his hopes rising. Just like that, they dashed as the chakra dispersed into the air when Festus suddenly dove. Kamikaze. Ares cheered, grinning ear to ear. Naruto shot upward, grabbing Piper and Jason before their necks snapped from the whiplash. Thank you. Piper and Jason said. Holding the two teens by the back of their shirts, Naruto glared past them at his pilot. What the hell are you doing? We're coming into Chicago Air. Did you miss the giant plane flying over us? Leo asked. Yeah, airspaces are complex, dude. Leo frowned, getting his grandfather to nod in agreement. Jason and Piper stirred from the force of wind hitting them until Leo pulled up. Jason shook his head. What happened? Welcome to the Windy City, Jason, Leo said. He sounded a bit haggard. Everything you expected? If you mean swarming with Venti, then yes. Yes it is. Jason said as their chosen target had lost itself in a swarm above a fountain that had two monoliths. The monoliths had television screens that were shining an image of a woman's face, the fountains themselves spitting water out from where her lips were. Great. Her again. Leo said under his breath. Great, Percy muttered. Tsuchi? Naruto said, squinting at the image. He blinked at the weird looks he got. Some kid found me when me and Mew were looking around. She was a Doden Cage Bunshin, an Earth Shadow clone. That picture looks like her, only older. She likes him. Aphrodite giggled, making Athena and Piper gag. She's got an eye on us, that's for sure, Leo said, frowning. Beware the Earth, Jason said under his breath, making Naruto blink in confusion. Now why would they go and do a thing like that? It's pretty obvious. Jason stated blandly. So what now? Piper asked, looking at Jason. Naruto joined her, curious to how Jason will make his move. They're going down that hole. Jason said. Don't say it. Leo said under his breath. Of course he will. Talia smirked. We need to go down that hole, Jason said, ignoring Leo. I knew you were going to say it. I was hoping, but I knew it was a stretch, Leo said, letting a groan escape his lips. Hope all you want, it doesn't really work, Percy told Leo, getting the boy to frown. I know. He pulled on the reins. I'll land somewhere. Personally, I don't want to try jumping from this high up into the small hole. Splat. Ares snickered, getting some looks. I was going to suggest we check it out on foot, Jason said. They had landed in a park covered in a white blanket of snow next to a frozen lake. Naruto embraced it as best he could and investigated the trees, coming across a sign said the area was called Grant Park. So cities had parks in them that left some nature to the area. Good to know. He thought it was a bit backwards, though. Indeed. Artemis nodded readily. Naruto would have preferred it be more like Konoha, where the forest enveloped the cities, nature surrounding them. If only. The huntress said in a wistful tone. Is that supposed to happen? Jason asked, pointing at the flickering light in Festus' eye. Leo paused and pulled a rubber mallet out and whacked the eye, fixing it back to normal. Yep, he said. So just hitting them do work, don't? Hephaestus scowled at his war brother. Delicate touch my right cheek, he snarked back. A hand rested on the dragon. Festus can't stay out here, though. He'll have to circle the city. What if we need to make a quick escape like with the Cyclops? Naruto asked. Leo started to dig around in his tool belt. He gave a grin as he whipped out a giant orange whistle. The son of Hephaestus turned to the dragon. Festus, listen up, boy. When I blow this whistle, come as fast as you can, okay? Here, this is what it sounds like. The whistle probably blew out Jason and Piper's eardrums, but it outright shattered Naruto's hearing and sent Mew off into the sky. The ninja fell to his back, clutching at his ears and hearing nothing but buzzing. Way to go, Leo. Hey, the boy frowned at Annabeth. How was I supposed to know he had super hearing? He groaned and got to his feet, sticking his pinky finger in his left ear and wiggling it around. Piper turned to him and said something. He stared at her for a moment. What? Hey, Hermes snickered. I love that. You hear us yet? Leo asked. They were in the middle of climbing down the maintenance ladder in the larger drain they saw earlier near the fountain, which was called Crown Fountain. Naruto found it interesting that when he stepped into the fountain's view, the image would shift to Tsuchi's familiar face. Ominous. Hera frowned, wondering what her grandmother was up to. He would step out of view and it would turn into the older Tsuchi again. It struck Naruto odd, but Piper got sick of the screen frizzing and forced him to go down after Jason. Yeah, I've got a faint buzzing in the right ear, but it's all clear in the left, Naruto said, grinning. They were following Jason for some reason, heading down one specific tunnel. So what did I miss? Piper's got a small sprain from the warehouse. Decided to keep it quiet until we got off Festus. You should really bring stuff like that up, Annabeth told Piper, who frowned. She didn't want to slow the group down at her expense. When you were playing with Zukai, she had a sip of nectar, Leo said. Naruto glanced at Piper's ankle before looking back at Leo. Seems she didn't get enough, because she just stumbled. Of course after I look away, Naruto said, rolling his eyes. I was fine, Piper said with a pout. Let's rest, Jason suggested. We've gone for hours non-stop and fought without any real food. I offered to have Mew catch some smaller birds, Naruto said, getting a look from Piper. What? I thought you were a sage, Piper said, frowning at him. How could you suggest that? I make use of everything and burn what remains, Naruto said. Very hunter-like. Artemis commented with amusement, getting her rival to gasp. Don't you even think about that, Artemis. That much man needs to be spread around the world. You did just refer your own son to be a man whore, correct? The sexiest one ever? Aphrodite tried to recover. It's a shinobi rule. Leave no trace, but it's alive, Piper said. And all living things die, Naruto said, shrugging it off. Rule of life. Hades nodded in agreement. They picked a small portion of the walkway to take a seat at, Leo digging through his belt for any useful items he needed to make some food. Not the gods, Jason said. Apollo gave a cold laugh, getting some looks. Oops, sorry, tickle in my throat. Right. Hermes said dryly. Then why were they afraid of Kronos? Naruto asked. Gods can die. Pan faded, the natural death of a god. His domain was attacked too much and humanity lost faith in him, stopped believing, as it were. So, yes, Jason, even gods can die. Exactly. Hades nodded. He looked at his hand and clenched it into a fist. I've killed one myself. Say what now? The gods said. The younger three gave him curious looks, Leo whistling in awe. How do you do that? He asked from where he messed with a skillet. He didn't, Jason said in disbelief. They're gods, right? You can't. The skepticism on this one. Apollo rolled his eyes, making Jason frown along with Hera. But she knew that Apollo was correct, in a way. Not a Greek god, Naruto said, correcting himself. Oh, boring, Ares stated, but still mildly interested. I'm not really sure if she was a god or a monster. She's considered the originator of chakra, the mother of the first Ninshu master, Hagoromo Otsutsuki. From Dad's side, I'm a descendant of his. Shu. Wow, what did he fight with boots and sell sneakers? Leo asked. Who throws a shoe? Apollo questioned in a British accent. Fear the Agets, Hermes cried out. Ninshu was a spiritual method of fighting. I think the old man sage said something about it being a way to bring people together. Naruto said, shrugging. I dunno, wasn't really paying attention. All I know is that Ninshu turned into ninjutsu, which is what I used to fight. Anyway, she turned out to be manipulating this long-dead dude and took his body over with the help of her creation Zetsu, who'd been deformed over time into a shadow. I personally punted the freak into a giant satellite before we launched the fucker into space. In space? Percy questioned. In space, Leo said in a dramatic voice. Awesome. Leo said, stirring the food. So what did she look like? Of course you would ask that. Piper deadpanned as Leo gave a sheepish shrug. Depends on what she felt like. Naruto said after a moment. She was either really pretty or a giant shellfish. So Leo, shut up, giant, shellfish, Piper said. Yeah, but her choice in appearance aside, she could manipulate reality. Naruto gained a hardened look at this. That's difficult. Athena commented. Difficult, that's messed up. Ares stated, I want to fight her. Of course you would. She was very hard to fight, and if it wasn't for a few special gifts from Old Man Sage, I probably would have lost. Her trump card was making a giant chakra-devouring tree that had captured all of the shinobi fighting against her. It almost killed everyone, but my team stopped her. Granted, my friend went a little power mad. I had to beat some sense back into him before he helped us return everything to normal. Stupid Sasuke. Apollo scowled. I personally destroyed her left arm before using a technique that ended it. Her remains were sucked into the satellite with Zetsu. That's impressive. Reina commented with an apprising look on her face. Indeed it is. Athena said, her chest puffed up at her legacy's deed, making her rival roll his eyes. Please, Percy did better. Dad, the savior of Olympus said dryly, he did not want to get involved with their pissing contest. That's not killing her, though, is it? Leo asked. True. Zeus nodded, it most certainly wasn't. It's what Zeus did to Kronos. Kind of, Naruto said. Also true. The king of the gods nodded again. He looked at his stomach before moving his hand, an action that wasn't lost on the others. I almost lost a close friend several times that day. Dark. Leo said. This chakra stuff, you got it from your dad, right? Jason asked. Leo gained an uncomfortable look on his face. Leo gave his dad a sheepish look, but the Smith god understood. Yeah. Naruto said, sitting back on his hands and thinking about the sacrifices his father made for him. He had a small smile on his face. My dad's awesome. Of course he was. The weaver smiled. Argument aside, food's done. Let's eat, Leo said. Chef Leo's garbage tacos. And before you ask, Miss Picky Eater, it's tofu, not beef. No meat? Naruto asked his sister. I'm a vegetarian, Piper said. Don't get her started, Leo said, rolling his eyes. Seriously, she's trying to slowly convert all of us. Beware the anti-cow woman, beware. All for the anti-cow. Hera smiled at that as Talia laughed. Never. The hunter declared, giving a savage smile to her stepmother. Shut up, Valdez. Piper said, frowning at him. She looked at Naruto. You should try, it's healthier. Would that mean I'd have to quit ramen? You lost right there, Piper. Hazel shook her head. Why? Reina questioned. He's obsessed with ramen. Maybe, but if there's even a chance of quitting ramen, count me out. Piper pouted. Darn it. Naruto picked a small bit of tofu up and tossed it to a small ledge where a large rat sat. The meal was amazing. Leo had quite the talent for cooking, even if it wasn't up to par on Naruto's personal tastes. Well, I try. The Latino smirked. Ichiraku ramen. It was nectar and ambrosia in disguise, it just had to be. It is most likely not, Athena stated, then all the mortals who had eaten it would be dead. Not bad, Leo. Jason said. They sat in a comfortable silence around the fire, drinking the lemonade Leo made from canteen water and powder mix. Jason wiped the nozzle off and took a drink before passing it on to Piper. Indirect kiss. Mom, he wiped it. Dart. He looked at the fire for a minute before looking at Leo. Leo, that stuff you did with the fire, is it true? Leo said nothing before lifting his hand up to the fire and letting a small orb dance around his hand. You tell me. Frank looked uncomfortable. That's awesome, Jason said. Why didn't you say anything? Didn't want to be called a freak, Leo said. Naruto snorted at that. If anything, this was the last group to say that to. Seriously, he's right, Piper told Leo, who nodded in agreement. Leo, Jason can live through being hit by lightning and flies. Naruto spams clones of himself like it's an everyday thing. Piper said, getting a chuckle from her brother. Seriously, you belong with us, Leo. Annabeth smirked, getting the boy to laugh in agreement. And Piper can make gods turn their heads, Jason said, getting the girl to fluster at him. What? You can. So innocent. Aphrodite giggled. Watch it, Flyboy. Naruto said. He was playing with a kunai that he pulled from his pouch. Jason took the hint and returned his attention to Leo. Smart boy. Talia smirked, looking amused at Naruto playing big brother towards Jason now instead of Percy. By the look on Percy's face, he was too. The point is, that's a really cool thing you can do, Jason said. Leo scoffed and let the fire on his hand snuff itself out. No, it's not. Nissa told me about children of Hephaestus who can use fire. Bad things usually happen whenever one pops up. Like, really bad things. Catastrophic things. He looked at the fire, eyes narrowed. I was cursed. No, the Smith god said simply. Or maybe you were blessed. Piper said. Leo gave her a look that showed he disagreed with her. Maybe the bad things happen and the gifts are needed to stop them. The fire of London in 1666 was caused by a son of Hephaestus, Leo said, as if that explained it all. All the gods looked at the fire god, who shrugged, my bad. So, Naruto asked. One kid couldn't handle it. Does that mean that you have no control? No, but when I was younger, Leo trailed off. Leo and his dad gained sad looks at that. Naruto leaned over and put a hand on his shoulder. Leo, if you did something when you were younger, that's because you were inexperienced and it was an accident. Naruto said softly. He put his hand on his stomach. I know what it means to be cursed with great power. Before he gave his life for my village, my father did something incredible. He stopped a monster and left its power for me to use. Which was terrible of him. Aphrodite cried out. Nonsense, it made Naruto stronger for it. Athena countered. Of course you would take his side, HMPH. The village at first saw me as the monster in question, that caused so many lives to be lost, and it made me into an outcast. Aphrodite glared at Athena, who looked away. Real supportive, Leo said under his breath. Seriously. Leo slumped, not helping. But I got their attention, Naruto said, ignoring Leo's mumble. He grinned proudly. I showed them that I would never give up, that I would strive to be the best and lead them like my father did. I mastered my father's curse and turned it into a blessing. Athena sent a smug look to the love goddess, who just huffed and crossed her arms. How? Leo asked. You can just hear the desperation. Ares, Hephaestus scowled as the war god snickered. I accepted it as a part of me, Naruto said, sitting upright with a content smile on his face. That's rather simple, Reina said, but true, Leo said softly. If you can't accept it, then it will consume you. You're stronger than that, Leo. Whatever happened in the past is beyond your control now, but you're the one who walks the path forward. So will you let your fire guide you, or will you guide your fire? Well, he conceitedly give a rousing speech, Poseidon complimented. Athena was looking pleased and remembered to write that down. It was a good one. Leo looked stunned and turned away, looking back at the fire. Wow, get that off a fortune cookie? He liked it. Piper, Leo pouted at his friend's teasing. A what? Naruto asked. I'll tell you later, Piper said. All right. Well, let's get some more sleep, then we'll follow the Ventus, Jason said. Naruto dreamed as he rested. Yay, Aphrodite. Athena frowned. Honestly, not all teenage boys dreamt about girls. Even her children. He dreamt of a mountainous plain, a grove of trees off to the side and a small lake nearby. He looked down at himself and poked at the blanket that was wrapped around him. It looked like the sky when the sun rose or set, a nice vibrant orange that had mixes of purple and red at the edges. Orange really does work for him, the mother nodded, a nice bright color. Weird. Well, it was cool, but it was also weird. A small sound of awe got his attention and he looked up. His eyes fell on a girl his age that looked like Tsuchi. He blinked as he realized it was Tsuchi. A young Gia. The gods looked shocked. You look handsome, she said, walking up to him, putting a hand on his cheek. As this, Annabeth breathed, her eyes wide. Her mother nodded. I believe so, she stated. Naruto wanted to ask what was going on, but instead he said, Thank you, where am I? It hasn't been that long, Tsuchi said with a giggle. It sounded like a high bell being rung. She poked him on the nose playfully. I like it when you joke around. Do it more often. Young Gia and Oranos. Aphrodite squealed at the early love story. Oh, this is fantastic. Well, if you insist, Naruto heard himself say. Strange thing to say to someone he hardly knew. Wait, this was that flirting thing, wasn't it? Why was he flirting? He barely knew this girl other than she wasn't on good terms with Leo. Yeah. Hush, Leo Valdez. The love goddess said, eager to see this play out. In fact, some were the other gods. Tsuchi giggled again and leaned up, kissing his cheek. Great. Now he feels like a peeping Tom. Nothing wrong to hitchhike a dream. The love goddess waved off with a perverse giggle. She got a few eye rolls at that. Tsuchi bounced away, her hands falling behind her back as she walked away. She turned on the balls of her feet, smiling at him serenely. Teenage primordials. The love goddess was in titters. Come on, Tsuchi said, walking backwards with the smile still in place. Naruto furrowed his brows, wondering why he couldn't hear her say his name. Ooh, Hazel said, this is getting interesting. Follow me. I want to show you something. Naruto gave a light laugh and followed her. While he was confused, he felt the smile spreading across his face. She took his hand and pulled her along with him. Over here, Tsuchi said. She sounded so excited. He followed her as she pulled him along. She pulled him to a beach, the sand feeling new and foreign to him despite having dealt with it before. As that, Zeus trailed off. Poseidon nodded. It is Pontus. Amazing. He breathed out. He got here yesterday. But look what we made. Doesn't it feel amazing on your feet? It's strange, Naruto said, flexing his toes. He hummed for a moment before smiling at her. Can you do anything with it? Tsuchi blinked. I don't know. That's unfortunate. Maybe you could make something, Naruto said. He dragged his foot through the sand. It's rather malleable. Sand drawing, Apollo grinned. Tsuchi looked at the sand before beaming. The ground shifted before it rose. A language Naruto wasn't familiar with appeared, but he felt himself blush. Love message. Aphrodite giggled while clapping. Oh, they were so cute. Tsuchi giggled and turned him towards her. You're bright, too, Tsuchi said. She leaned up and Naruto felt himself leaning down. Her breath blew against his face and... Wake up. No. The love goddess cried out with a whine. Who dares? Naruto's eyes snapped open. Wahoo! Jason. Jason Grace. The Lady of Doves cried out, scandalized. Sorry? Damn right you are. The love goddess huffed. Naruto, I've been trying to wake you up for a few minutes now, Jason said. You should have just slapped him. That always works, Leo said, looking very amused at the thought. I know, right? Leo grinned as Piper scowled at him for doing it once to her. Not cool. He got a small pebble thrown at his forehead. Ow. Hey, the charm speaker grinned. Lesson 1. Don't attack a sleeping shinobi, Naruto said. Breaks your neck in his sleep. Ares grinned. He's done it once or twice, on accident. Yeah, accident. As he got to his feet and stretched, still wondering about that dream he had. Why hadn't he been able to hear the names? Tsuchi said. Why couldn't he read the words that Tsuchi wrote, yet still blushed? And why was he wearing an orange towel like a dress? Why all these questions? Percy asked jokingly, getting a light shove from his girlfriend. Sure, it was awesome, but still. A towel? Toga. The gods corrected, and that was the style back in the day. Why'd you throw a rock at me and not Jason? Leo asked, rubbing his head. Because Jason didn't suggest bodily harm to wake me up, Naruto said simply. Jerk. Leo pouted with crossed arms. He looked to the quest leader and grinned. Let's go, Flyboy. Jason rolled his eyes while Piper giggled at the nickname, finding it somewhat appropriate. He would, Superman. The Pyro grinned as the Flyboy in question smirked. Jason led them down a dark tunnel, pausing every now and then to feel the air current. Naruto would occasionally walk onto the wall and then the ceiling, walking parallel with Leo, getting a good startle out of the group when they thought they lost him. Classy. Hermes nodded with a grin. Shame Mew didn't join them. On second thought, perhaps it was better. He didn't want to worry about cleaning her feathers. Messy things they are. Poseidon commented offhandedly, getting a glare from his younger brother. It was when they came to the end of their path that Naruto finally dropped down and scratched his head. Two steel doors with the letter M engraved on them in what Annabeth called cursive stood before them. On the wall next to the doors was a plaque with other words on it. Is that an elevator directory? Leo asked. He squinted his eyes. Who has a floor dedicated to poison? And what the heck is a sundry anyway? Is that some kind of lingerie? Really? Annabeth asked Piper, who nodded. Leo just shrugged. It was a good question in his opinion. I'm not sure about those last few questions, but I think this is a directory, Jason said, hitting the up button. The doors opened with a ding, revealing a cozy elevator with gold railings and lush walls. What is this, Macy's? Piper asked. Please, Aphrodite scoffed, like Medea could pull that off. What's Macy's? Naruto asked. Piper just gave him a look of disbelief. It's a parade, Leo said. He snickered when Piper shoved him lightly while they stood outside the elevator. That got a few snickers. Shut up, Leo, Piper said. She looked at her older brother. Macy's is a mall that happens to have an annual parade. Oh, what's a mall? Aphrodite made a sharp gasp, the horror. Wow, dude. Just wow, Leo said. Even Jason gave Naruto a bewildered look. And that's saying something, Piper stated, getting a pout from her boyfriend. Piper opened and closed her mouth before shaking her head. I'll explain it later, Naruto. If you say so, Naruto said, giving a shrug. He turned to Jason. So what now, Flyboy? The best place to start would be at the top, Jason said. He stepped in and the others followed. His finger wandered to the fourth floor's button and pressed it. The doors closed with a loud ding. The floor shifted and Naruto felt it rise. He began getting nervous. Closed spaces were not his forte. Percy nodded. He totally understood. The sea needed to be free after all. You all right, Naruto? Leo asked. Fine, Naruto said through gritted teeth. That bar begs to differ. Naruto looked at the golden bar in his grip, being bent into his hand. Hate to shake his hand, Frank said. He let go and looked at his shaking hand, clenching it into a fist. I'm not a fan of closed spaces. No, really? Leo asked. What happened to cause that? Got eaten by a giant snake when I was 12. That would so do it, Apollo said in full agreement. The three looked at him oddly. Beats my story, Leo said. No one said anything else, but Jason prepared his sword. Naruto's grip around his staff tightened, surprisingly being sturdier than the railing in the elevator. Celestial bronze. Hephaestus rolled his eyes, of course it was stronger. The elevator doors dinged as they opened and Jason stepped out first with his sword at the ready. Sword polish, axes, spears, Leo said like an attendant, sail on guillotines on the 3rd floor. Jason paused outside and lowered his blade. Guys, you have got to see this. They followed and joined Jason as he looked over the mall. This is not Macy's, Piper said, in shock. Duh. Aphrodite commented. It's like a kaleidoscope, Leo said. Naruto nodded in agreement. It was massive. The ceiling was beautiful glass, stained with strange symbols that reflect off the giant sun in the center of it all. Not my son, Apollo pouted. It was like being in a room showered in color. This was what Sage Mode looked like. Check it out, Leo said. That statue looks like Coach Hedge. Jason and Piper looked to where he was pointing and Naruto followed their gaze, down by a large fountain. What was with this city and giant fountains? There was a cage that rattled and stormed, filled with the spirits that had caused his sister and her friends so much trouble, while opposite that was a stone statue of a satyr holding a tree branch the size of a club. That was one strong satyr, stronger than Billy at any rate. If it looks like him, Percy trailed off. It is. Annabeth nodded. We need to get down there, Piper said. I think that is Coach Hedge. Exactly. May I be of some assistance? The 4 demigods turned on their feet, Naruto holding both of his staves while Jason held his sword at the ready. They lowered their guard as they realized it was a woman looking at them. She was pretty, but Naruto didn't really pay attention to that. Good, ignore her, Naruto. Annabeth said. It was her eyes that had him keep his guard up. They were cold and calculating. Looking into them and Naruto saw that something was wrong. He just couldn't put his finger on what that was, though. Bad guy. The demigods nodded. The woman smiled. I'm so happy to see new customers. We're not. Naruto trailed off as the wall shifted around. Behind her. The elevator vanished, the doors being hidden by an earthy wall. Naruto squinted his eyes as a face appeared in it briefly. Tsuchi. Okay. I think she's getting a bit obsessed with him now. Piper frowned. Sweetie, this is interesting. Enjoy it. I think tea is on the 3rd floor. The woman said. She turned to the younger 3. How may I help you? Is this your store? Jason asked. Annabeth opened and closed her mouth. That felt like a Percy. Hey. The boy cried out in embarrassment as Jason looked embarrassed too. She nodded. I found it abandoned. How you say, renovated it. I realized there were many stores like this. I love collecting things and helping people find what they need. It seemed like what is the term, good investment. Of evil. Hermes cried out. Are you new to this country? Jason asked. He ignored the weird look Piper was giving him. Piper pouted as Jason looked sheepish at that. Yes, I am, new, she said. Her smile never faltered. I am the princess of Colchis. Which should have flagged them off, Annabeth said. Hey, Jason and Piper knew way more than me, blame them. I did figure it out, but you two were drooling over her. The charm speaker said with hands on her hips. My friends call me your highness. That got a few snorts, please, so she was a princess. Big deal. Now what is it you were looking for? Our friend, Jason said. He sounded a bit dazed. Gleason-Hedge. The satyr statue. Could we see him? Charm speak too? Percy asked the guys, and Jason and Leo nodded. I hate that. I don't. Piper smirked. How would she know his name? Naruto asked. His words didn't go through the son of Zeus' head. Jupiter. Jason corrected on instinct. Yes. I take you. First your names, the princess said, smiling pleasantly. This isn't a good idea, Piper said. Jason seemed to ignore it. I'm sorry, Jason said to his pouting girlfriend. This is Piper, Leo and then. I'm Nathan. Naruto said. That was the name of a kid at camp. Aphrodite hummed at the name. It fit for an alias. He nodded to Jason. And I'm Jason. Jason said. He didn't seem to look concerned as to why Naruto gave the woman a false name. He's a ninja. Hermes said, like that explained everything. Naruto glared at the woman slightly as she seemed to focus solely on Jason after he said his name. Well, you're dead. Talia patted her brother's shoulder. Jason just glared at her. He blinked when he thought that her head became clear, glowing as she gazed at Jason. It was over when he blinked again. What a lovely name, the princess said, giving a bitter smile. You know, I believe we might have a special sale for you. Here's some poison. Extra deadly. Leo snickered as Jason glared at him. She turned and walked towards the staircase. Come along, children, let's go shopping. This is such a bad idea, Piper said to Naruto under her breath. He simply nodded and kept his grip tightly on his staff. They were following the princess through the potions store. Why? No clue. All Naruto knew was that the princess was way too interested in Jason. In a creepy way, Hazel commented, and not in a good way. Obviously, Reina stated. I know, Naruto said simply. Just play along. He turned his attention to the princess. Colchis, sounds strange. Where is it? A legacy of Athena, not knowing something. Poseidon, so help me, he is clearly playing along. Far from here. Very far and lifetime ago. The princess said simply. She turned to look at him. You are not from here either, Nathan? Wisconsin. Naruto said with a smile. Wisconsin, what a dreary-sounding land, the princess said. Not that bad, Hermes assured. It's not that bad, Naruto said. They got that team. What was it, Piper? The Green Bay Packers. Yeah, that's right, the good old Green Bay Packers, Naruto said with a grin. Woo! Football. Ares cheered with arms in the air. The princess blinked in confusion. What do they pack? Everyone snickered at that one. Everything? Doesn't matter. What's this do? Naruto asked, grabbing the nearest vial that he could find. It was a swan-shaped container with blue liquid in it. Careful, dear. The princess said. What, will he sprout legs from his stomach? Piper asked, rolling her eyes. Hey, Percy said in a serious tone, you never know. He got turned into a guinea pig. No, the princess said, her smile widening slightly. That potion will kill you very painfully. Like getting a sword shoved through your stomach? Jason asked. That's painful. Ares nodded. He's done it to many people after all. The screams he's heard. Far more painful than that, dear Jason. Ooh, Ares sounded interested now. I'll just put this down carefully then, Naruto said. He might have had worse than a sword in his stomach, but he wasn't keen on feeling it again. What sane man would? Apollo asked, and you don't count, Ares, pay. He grabbed another vial, this one blood red like his mother's hair, or at least the form she chose when she had him, and having a simple cork that stopped it. What's this one do? That one? That one is opposite, the princess said. Very powerful healing agent. Heals any disease that befalls you. Any disease? Like cancer? Leo asked. Leprosy? Hangnails? Hangnails, ghastly. Aphrodite shivered. Yes, sweet boy. The princess said, gently petting Leo's messy hair. Any disease. Good doggy, now roll over. So help me, Jong. Like amnesia? Piper asked after a moment. Naruto looked at her, catching her steal a glance at the dazed Jason. He followed her gaze and looked at his fellow blonde, seeing a small frown appear on his face before he blinked it away. He seemed to have issues remembering still. Yep. Jason nodded. At least Percy could remember, he was still recovering. Naruto looked at Piper again. Don't, Piper, he said under his breath, his hand grabbing her arm gently. We can't get sucked into this. He's right, dear, no deal like that is worth it. The Lady of Doves told her daughter. Woe sadly nodded. Piper ignored him, her eyes staying on the princess's face. She never looked away. Yes, I think it could, the princess said. She tilted her head. Why, dear, did you forget something important? Piper. Naruto said with a hiss. Big brother flags going off. Apollo nodded. I know what I'm doing, Piper said, swiveling a glare on her brother. No you don't. Hermes snorted, just because she had charm speak, honestly. She looked back at the princess. How much? The princess blinked and put a hand on her cheek. the other resting under her elbow as she looked beyond them. That's always the problem. I love helping people. Honestly, I do. And I always keep my promises, but people take advantage of that. Listen to her whine, Ares mocked. Ares, Hera frowned. The princess did have some right to be angry after what Jason did, but then again she did go a tad overboard too. Naruto glowered a bit at that. He'd been taken advantage of because of his promises before. One of his most memorable events like that was what he referred to as the Mizuki incident, where his academy teacher Mizuki had lied to him, tricked him into stealing a very important scroll, to make him a scapegoat, and then told him the secret that was kept from him for 12 years. For a teacher to do that, Athena frowned. I so know that, Percy nodded, remembering Ms. Dobbs. Teachers were evil. The woman's eyes glanced at Jason before meeting Naruto's. You know this pain, the princess said. She approached him and reached out, her hand cupping his whiskered cheek. Betrayed by someone you trusted. Is this another one Naruto charms? Hazel questioned. Harem. The love goddess cheered. No, Artemis scowled at the mere thought of it, Talia agreeing. And not just because Apollo Naruto and her other were dating, it had nothing to do with that at all. Once a handsome young man came to me for help. He wished to take something from my father. I made a bargain and I promised to help him steal it. From your own father? Jason asked. He looked a little bothered by that tidbit of information. Now, don't worry, Jason. The princess said, giving him a serene smile, her hand still on Naruto's cheek. I demand a high price. The young man who had to steal me away alongside his prize. Tricky devil that one. Hermes said. It seemed fair. He was good-looking, young, charming, dashing and strong. The princess looked at Piper. I'm sure you understand, yes? Yes. Leo nodded as Piper flushed, side glancing at Jason. Piper looked away at that, blushing a bit. Naruto slipped away from the princess's hand, getting a small look of confusion from her. He just gave her a flat glare that had her sighing and returning her attention to Jason. Because older Blondie isn't affected by her love mojo. Leo, Jason said, looking embarrassed. As it were, my hero did many an impressive deed, and, not to be modest, but he wouldn't have been able to do any of it without my help, the princess said. Hera grumbled a bit at that. She helped, but not that much. Her smile fell into a scowl. But, he betrayed me, cheated me of my reward for helping him, after all I did for him. Hera scowled at that. Cheated? Jason asked. Not cool, Leo said. The brainwashed duo everybody, Percy said, getting glares from the storm and fire users. The princess smiled and ran her hand across Leo's cheek affectionately. Such a sweet boy. No need to worry. You'd certainly pay full price, wouldn't you? What were we buying again? I'll take two. Charming, the princess said with an amused smile. She must really make a lot of sales. Hermes rubbed his chin in thought. No, Hades told his nephew, who just snapped his fingers. How much? Piper asked again. For the vial. Would you give anything for it, my dear? The princess asked, a strange tone in her voice. I sense that you would. I would pay the fair price for it. Piper said. Smart move, Annabeth nodded, saying anything was just asking for trouble. Not any price. After I buy it, we can leave, right guys? Leave? Jason asked. Piper, why would we want to leave? Yeah, we've got shopping to do, Leo said. Shopping spree. Mom, evil witch, save Hera. Oh, she can wait a bit. The love goddess waved off, getting a scowl from the goddess of marriage. No, I most certainly cannot. We'll leave after. Naruto looked between them with a frown. After, guys, we have things to do. We can do those when we're done, Jason said, waving him off. Hera frowned at Jason, who started to sweat a bit. Leo nodded in agreement. Yeah, listen to Jason. We'll finish shopping and then go do those things. Piper gained a look of horror and put her hand on Naruto's arm. They're charmed. Nathan, she's using Charm's Peak. Bum bum bum. Apollo sang and got slapped by his sister on the arm. Ow, hey, I bruise. Naruto looked at her for a second before looking at the princess. She was looking at the both of them with the same amused smile on her face. Interesting. Rare though it may be, I had a feeling you were her daughter. Though, I was not prepared for a son with the same gift, she said. Double love trouble. Aphrodite gloated. She gave Naruto an interested look, glancing at the staff in his hand and his clothes. She looked him dead in the eye and Naruto saw a flash of kinship. Quite frankly, he didn't know how to react to that. Because of betrayal. Athena sighed, she hoped her legacy won't let that deter him. His thoughts were jarred as the princess continued. No matter, let's shop a bit more, shall we? But the vial. No buts. The princess said, shaking her finger. But I like butts. Apollo whined, getting his sister to face palm as he and Hermes snickered immaturely. Now come. Let's not. Naruto said, tossing the red vial and his staff at Jason and Leo. He grabbed the swan-shaped vial and tossed it at the princess. She gasped and raised her hand, a warm golden glow appearing from it that caught the vial of never-ending agony. This is why I hate magic. Reina complained. Right? Talia nodded. What was magic? Naruto said, answering Piper's question. Colchis. Like the bull. You're the daughter of King Aedes, niece of Circe and of Pasiphae. You're Medea, Jason's scorned wife. And she got burned. Leo Valdez. Hera frowned. Wah? It's true. I knew Colchis sounded familiar, Piper said. And her story, handsome hero, betrayed after all she does. How are you still alive? Thanatos is a wimp? Ares questioned. Sounds right. Hades nodded, stupid lazy lieutenant. That is a very good question, Naruto said. He grabbed another vial and tossed it at Leo. Break it and you buy it. No. Leo cried out dramatically. Leo tossed Naruto the staff, his controlled mind telling him to save Medea's goods. Good programming. Hermes nodded, getting Leo to scowl. Not a robot. Naruto split staff as soon as he caught it, spinning the staves around in his hand, settling in a stance. Medea's head became a transparent glowing skull once again before dying down. Well, aren't you the scholar? Well, Athena smirked. Legacy of Athena, Naruto said, his face set in a scowl. Sweetie, grin more. Far better for your face, Aphrodite chided. He nodded to the near zombified figures of Jason and Leo. Let them in us go, or I'll drag your butt across the mall. And not in the good way. And that is just all kinds of bad. PRCY nodded. Medea laughed. Fool. They are under my control. I was going to have them fight to death. Guess I just have them kill you first. Yay. Ares cheered, but got smacked by his girlfriend. Ow. Not yay. Not yay. The Lady of Doves shook her head. Ah. She snapped her fingers and the two set their respective vials down. Leo reached into his tool belt and pulled out his sledgehammer while Jason flipped his coin and his spear appeared in his hand. Both got in ready stances, Leo's more thuggish. Hood life. Jason joked, while Jason's looked refined. Attention. Leo joked back. This doesn't sound fair, Naruto said. Yeah, 2-on-1 might be a bit much for him, Jason said as Annabeth snorted. We are talking about Naruto here, right? He stood up and started to bounce on the balls of his feet. It actually sounds boring. Hey. Leo frowned. They could win. Naruto stopped bouncing and snapped back into a hard stance. Guess I'll have to make it interesting. Kill him. Medea said. Jason and Leo walked forward, their weapons at the ready. Piper, stay back and out of the way, Naruto said. Piper scowled at that. Piper gave him an annoyed glare and he looked back at her with a grin. Trust me. Fine. Just hope he doesn't kill you too. Piper frowned. More like beat the hell out of them. Percy snickered. Reina said, I'd like to see how he fights. She commented. Next chapter it seems, Frank said. Hey guys, just wanted you to know that I have a new FIC out. It's called The Unrelenting Frozen Seas. It's APJO, HPFIC. The main character might surprise you, or, at least, her parentage. XD if you liked my Every Twisting Wind FIC with Andy, you might want to take a look. Chapter 8 Disclaimer. I do not own Naruto or Percy Jackson. Reading. Phil Stillamour, The Lost Hero. Chapter 8. The Sage Leaves His Mark. I'd like to read. Hazel smiled as she took the book from her boyfriend. You don't need to fight them. Piper grabbed Naruto's arm. I like that plan, Leo nodded, not wanting his chiseled face caved in from the ninja. No I don't, he said. He pulled out from her grip and blocked Jason's spear and Leo's hammer. Naruto grinned and turned to look at his sister, allowing her to see a gleam of excitement in his eye. I may not need to, but I do want to. Leo looked horrified as Jason shifted a bit with uneasiness. Why? Piper asked, horrified. Naruto looked at the two boys he held at bay, lifting a foot up and kicking the mechanic away, freeing his hand to be lifted up and swung at the stave at his fellow blonde, cracking Jason across the face. Jason gaped while Piper glared at her brother. Hey, she cried out. Both stumbled back, giving him some breathing room. Naruto cracked his neck and righted himself into a relaxed stance. Because someone close to me once said you don't know someone until you fight them. Naruto lifted his staves again. And pounced at the mind-controlled demigods. That doesn't make any sense at all. Makes perfect sense, Ares nodded. Piper threw her hands into the air as she was ignored and turned to glare at the amused Medea. Medea laughed and wrapped her arms around herself, seeing Piper's glare and smirking back at her. I so want to punch her, Piper fumed. Enjoy the show, girl. Medea returned her eyes to the fight as Naruto ducked under Leo's hammer, letting Jason take the blow to the stomach. Oops. Leo admitted with a shrug as Jason winced as if he was actually hit. And then sweep Leo off his feet, as he rose to knock Leo out with a hard kick to the face. Dude. Jason recovered from the blow to the stomach and stabbed at Naruto with his spear. The son of Aphrodite avoided the stab, but the following blow to the jaw from the other end of the spear had the sage stumbling back. My baby's face. Aphrodite cried out and glared at Jason, who held up his hands in fear. Mom, he did hit Jason first. Still, Jason pressed on, aiming with another thrust of his spear at Naruto's torso. Not bad, flyboy, Naruto said, catching and redirecting Jason's spear with his staves so that the spear just missed him. A bit. Better than Clarice. Faye, Ares grumbled, his girl would so win. Jason's eyes narrowed a bit at this, and Naruto's grin widened. He slid into Jason's defenses, using the blunt end of his stave to give Jason a hard smack upside the head. The son of Zeus fell to the ground, his spear changing back to its coin form. What's his obsession with head shots? Percy questioned as Ares grinned. What better way to take someone down? He mocked his mortal rival. Whoops, might have hit him too hard, Naruto said. He used his stave to scratch the side of his head. The shifting of stone had Naruto ducking under Leo's swing. Almost, Leo, but not quite. Leo's nostrils flared and his hand was lifted up, a ball of fire expelling from it. Hope you like hot tamales, Leo, Piper frowned. Wah. He needs some shots, it's all fair, the Latino waved of. Naruto yelped and bent himself at an impressive angle to avoid being hit. His foot shot up, kicking Leo right in the jaw. Leo's head snapped back and he soared for about 2 seconds before landing on a glass display case, or rather, crashing through it. Hey, Leo shouted, glass hurts you ninja idiot. What is he, a gymnast or something? Piper asked herself, shocked by the sight. Just our natural flexibility, Aphrodite boasted as Artemis rolled her eyes. For the purest of reasons of course, of course. Your brother is, what is word, rubberish? Medea asked, tapping her chin in thought. Flexible, Piper said, glaring at Medea for what it could imply. Everyone wants the blonde, Frank stated, it was weird. You could end this whenever you want, let us go, we've got to do something to save. The gods? How droll, Medea said, her eyes rolling. She smirked at Piper. Are you sure you have nothing better to do? That someone else might need you more? Piper's heart clenched in her chest for a moment and she swallowed. What do you mean? We all have a share of issues with fathers. Medea looked at her nails, glancing slyly at the pale Piper. Oh, I know of your plight, Piper McLean. You could say I know who thought it up quite well. Bitch, Piper spat out. It was you, Piper said. Her fists clenched tightly and her eyes narrowed. You kidnapped my father. You work for Enceladus. Me? No, I don't work for giants, girl. Medea waved the thought away. She turned to a fountain wall and plucked a diamond from her bracelet. Oh Iris, goddess of the rainbow, show me the office of Tristan McLean. Aphrodite's lips formed a thin line as Piper clenched her fists. The wall shimmered for a moment before it cleared and the aide to Tristan McLean, Jane, was seen in a familiar office. The woman was on the phone, but hung up immediately when Medea addressed her. "Hello, Jane." "Always hated her," Piper said through gritted teeth. "How can I help you, ma'am?" Jane asked. She blinked vacantly when she saw her boss's daughter. "Hello, Piper." "You." Piper saw red as she glared at the woman. "Oh yes, she was most useful, weren't you, dear?" Medea asked Jane. "I do my best," Jane said. "Yes, telling Tristan to go to Oakland quietly in his jet, without alerting the press or police," Medea said, smiling while Piper's heart sunk more and more. That was rather impressive of him. "Mr. McLean was rather easy to persuade when he thought Piper was in danger," Jane said. "Double bitch," Piper hissed with anger. "You should prepare a cover story. I believe this was enough to allow Mr. McLean to come home," Medea said. "Of course. I will stand by." The image faded and Medea turned to the infuriated daughter of Aphrodite. "That was rather enlightening, was it not? You lured my father into a trap. You bitch." Piper added for her other as Hestia frowned. "Young lady. I am not sorry, they deserve it," the demi-goddess huffed. "Oh please, dear," Medea said, cutting Piper off with a smirk. "You'll work yourself into a fit. I've been planning this war even before I was brought back to life. During my imprisonment, I had a vision. The gods' Vittori, the triumph of Poseidon's son." "Oh yeah," Percy grinned. "And then, most interestingly, I saw your friend Leo. I stirred my patron, not fully, but enough for her to make a quick visit." Leo started to flame up as Hephaestus' beard caught fire. Piper's anger turned to horror. "You." She looked to where Naruto was holding the two demigods off once more. Jason was bleeding from the corner of his mouth and Leo had a bruise forming on his eye. Piper focused on the son of Hephaestus. "Leo. This woman, she helped the dirt lady to kill your mother. I hope she likes fire." Leo grinned wickedly. "Tsuchi did what?" Naruto asked, turning to look at his sister. His distraction cost him some skin and blood, Jason slipping his sword around and cutting Naruto's arm. "Well, at least I didn't lop it off," Jason said weakly at the look the mother was giving him. This allowed Leo to back off and bring his sledgehammer up into Naruto's sternum, the son of Aphrodite doubling over from the direct hit to the chest with wheezes. Jason brought his sword up to finish it, hitting solid oak when he brought the sword down. Ares snapped his fingers. "Damn wood, it was just getting good." Medea blinked. "Impressive magic, it's not magic," Naruto said, groaning from where he was behind the two demigods. "It's a jutsu," Annabeth nodded sternly for her nephew. Leo spun and brought his hammer up with a war cry. Naruto stomped on the sledgehammer's bronze head, pinning it to the ground, and used his staves to strike Leo's shoulders, making him drop his weapon with a pained exclamation, before jumping up with a backspin kick to the chest. "Konoha Senpu." "Oh come on," Leo whined, he couldn't take hits like that. Leo flew back and hit a pillar, slumping to the ground with a groan. Jason jumped in, his sword once more above his head. Naruto blocked it with his staves, keeping the sword above Jason's head and following with a knee to the gut. Jason folded over Naruto's knee. "He's just owning you too," Percy commented and got glares. "I'd like to see you fight him," Jason frowned. "Same here," Leo commented, looking put out. "Time to snap out of it, flyboy," Naruto said, slipping behind Jason and bringing his recombined staff down over the back of his head. Jason dropped like a sack of potatoes. Smack! Ares cheered as he punched his palm loudly. Even Athena seemed pleased from her legacy's actions. Medea smirked. "A good attempt, hero. Unfortunately for you." She snapped her fingers and, though groaning, the two demigods started to rise again. "I'm no mere palace magician." We're rag dolls now," Leo frowned. This was going to suck. "Okay. Not good," Naruto said, taking a few wary steps back as the bruised and bloody demigods pushed themselves to their feet and brought their weapons up. "Piper. Start using that charm talk." "Charms peak," the mother and daughter corrected. "I'm trying," Piper said, tears in her eyes as her friends turned with bad intentions towards Naruto. Naruto could only hold back for so long and eventually his attacks would unintentionally become lethal. Which would honestly suck, just saying, Leo giving his personal input. Jason and Leo's bodies were not immortal, after all, and they could only take so much damage before it became life-threatening. Jason. Leo. Please, you're best friends and Naruto's friends. You're not killers, stop listening to her. Yeah, Piper grinned, start listening to me. Come on, guys, you're both stronger than this, Naruto said under his breath as he blocked their attacks. Don't let that witch control you. Stop fighting each other and fight Medea. Piper watched Jason go for an impaling strike while Naruto blocked Leo's sledgehammer. Jason and Leo froze. About time, Talia muttered, it was why she hated magic, it was so unfair. Naruto took the time to look at the gold sword that was centimeters away from piercing his side and then up at the sledgehammer he was keeping at bay. He let out a breath he wasn't aware that he was holding. About time. Naruto? Was I about to stab you? Jason asked, reaching up and holding his head. My head is killing me. Your head? I feel like I was punched 100 times by a freaking boxer. Leo rubbed his face with a wince before blinking. Blame him, Leo said, pointing at Naruto's image. I remember something about my mother, he rounded on Medea, fire in his eyes and trailing up his hammer. Lady, I got a chunk of bronze waiting to introduce itself to your face. Bringo Bongo, witch, the son of fire grinned darkly. It seems I underestimated your abilities, McLean. I'll have to collect my payment another way. Medea sneered and stepped back, pressing on a tile that caused the building to shake. Jason rushed at her and took a swing, going through a smoky figure while she reappeared at the back of the store. Jason, Leo and Naruto made to pursue her, but were stopped as two large golden beasts burst through the floor and then dove back down, causing the three heroes to fall through with the debris. Damn it, Helios, Apollo shook his head, he should not have given those out back then. Leo landed in an enormous bubbling bowl of lava, breaking up through the molten liquid with a gasp. Yeah, I can survive lava, Leo bragged, he was awesome like that. He pulled himself out while Naruto helped Jason back to his feet, the two blondes lucky enough to land on a pile of mattresses that had fallen through to the bottom floor. Leo pouted in disbelief, it's always the blondes who get lucky. What the hell was that? Leo asked. Naruto merely pointed at the growling dragons that weren't quite as large as Festus, but large enough to make them nervous. Oh. I'm going to call Festus. Good idea. Naruto looked up at Medea with narrowed eyes. He caught movement and grinned when he saw Piper running at the sorceress. Go, Imouto, go. Go Piper, go Piper, Annabeth and Hazel sang out with grins as the charm speaker smirked. Don't look the dragons in the eyes. They'll paralyze you, Jason said. He held his sword at the ready with a wince. Who knew falling through? Jason looked up and counted. 5 floors would hurt so much. Meh, shrug it off, Ares mocked, it wasn't that much a big deal. Cool. Well, not cool, but, you know what I mean. Leo pulled his hammer up and blanched when he saw that the head had melted. Oh man. Find something else. Free for all sale, Naruto said, running forward and leaping at one dragon with his staves at the ready. The dragon's orange eyes locked on him and it roared, to which he replied with a war cry as he impaled it in the neck through both sides, straining before he lifted it off the ground about 2 feet and slammed it back down. Too heavy, oh. Should have done that sage thing, Percy pointed out critically. The other dragon grabbed him in its jaws and Naruto used chakra to act as a second layer of skin, keeping the jaws from closing completely around him. Like wrestling a croc, Ares snickered, those things had jaws. The first dragon found itself attacking Jason while Leo searched for a suitable weapon and blew on his whistle like there was no tomorrow. As much as I appreciate Festus coming for us, I hate that whistle, Naruto struggled under the dragon's mighty jaw. It was a bit annoying, Piper commented on the shrill safety whistle. Got the job done, Leo waved off her concern. On the potions floor, Piper grabbed several vials from the shelf and threw them at Medea. The sorceress had grabbed the blue swan vial with a smirk, but it turned horrified as she barely caught Piper's thrown vials. Her smirk returned at the successful catch. A good try. Is that the best you can do? Piper narrowed her eyes and grabbed another vial, throwing it at the collection in Medea's magic, causing an explosion that sent the sorceress to hit a shelf. Piper pumped her fist, Those science lab classes did pay off. How to make things blow up. The remaining vials crashed down on and around her, the blue vial being crushed in her grip. Medea gained a look of horror once more and nearly shrieked. You fool! Do you know what all THSE potions will do? Hopefully, they'll kill you, Piper said. She could feel the floor heat up and started to back away. Victory, to Science Lab. Leo laughed, remembering that time he and Piper blew up the Science Lab. It was mostly him, but Piper aided him as well. Jason. Naruto. Guys? A little help? Leo's voice had Piper turning to look for her friend, and when she found him she nearly let out a sob. Leo was pinned by the dragon that had Naruto's staves in its neck, its teeth dangerously close to Leo's face. Shrimp on the Barbie? Ares questioned to his brother, getting a heated glare. The other dragon was cornering Jason, its mouth empty. Piper feared the worst, actually praying that Naruto had once more faked his death instead of the alternative. The ceiling crashed and Piper once again felt hope as the enormous and powerful frame of Festus fell through, diving behind him the smaller but equally welcomed Mew. Festus grabbed the dragons in his claws, lifting them off of the ground. Mew swooped in and pulled Naruto's staves out quickly to avoid being harmed by the thrashing dragon. Well trained, Zeus said, stroking his beard. Good boy, Festus. Leo cheered his dragon on. Festus threw one into the pit it had climbed out of. The other, however, exploded in his claws at the neck, the head going flying to the side while a horde of Narutos poured out, each falling to the ground before going up in smoke. He was going to pop it inside out, Frank said. His jaw went slack. That was crazy. The real Naruto landed on his arm with a strangled cry, most likely breaking it. Festus threw the body into the other hole. Jason hit a noticeable button on the ground, closing the cages to the pits and trapping the dragon that was fortunate enough to still have its life along with the other that was slowly reforming. Jason got off his stomach and went over to Leo, helping him to his feet before going to Naruto, who was being fretted on by the concerned Mew, his staves at his side. You okay? Jason asked, helping Naruto up. The whiskered blonde grunted, not giving an answer. He grabbed at his jacket's sleeve and tugged, not really caring about it at the moment. The fabric gave out and Naruto made a rushed sling with his sleeve. Mew cried at them and Naruto nodded. I'm fine. Jason, get Piper and Leo and get out of here. Mew, make sure they get out, he said. They looked ready to protest, but Jason backed off at the slitted pupils in his glaring eyes. I said go. Yeesh, someone's angry, Percy commented. They were worried about it. No need to act all tough. Jason nodded, running back over to Leo and helping him get the wind spirits and their satyr teacher free. After recombining his staves again, Naruto looked up and watched them rise. Beyond them, Piper made a daring leap before they caught her and he grinned. Mew hovered in the air and he glared at her. Go. I'll be right behind you, Mew. Naruto made sure she left before he crouched down and channeled chakra to his legs. He shot up and landed on the now flaming potions floor. Finish her, Ares grinned darkly, hoping it would be ugly. You'll listen to reason. You know my pain? Medea looked terrified. Save me and I'll give myself to you. I'll tell you everything you must know to beat her. Wow, Apollo whistled, reel forward, but unless he's into corpses like Uncle H. That is not a thing. Hades glared darkly at his son-nephew. Oh, he was going to wring whose ever neck that started that rumor. Naruto narrowed his eyes. He brought his staff up over his shoulder before smacking it against Medea's face, making her fall to the side and drop the red potion. Naruto pushed the sorceress onto her back, keeping her there with his staff while he carefully reached down with his broken arm and grabbed the potion. He stood back up and kept a level glare on Medea. You can't sell me anything. I learned not to trust so easily, Medea, and I know what it's like to have my trust used against me. Can't have that, Annabeth stated. What I want from you is the location of Piper's dad. After you Naruto added pressure to his staff. Location first, then I'll help you. Piper smiled at her brother's actions. That was cool of him. We'll die. I've got nothing to lose. You're serious. Medea swallowed. You'll die for someone you've never met. I'll die for the right reason. Annabeth groaned and palmed her face. Great, he was another Percy. I'm pretty sure that'll get me a pass from Tartarus, Naruto said. He glared at Medea. you'll be serving a full sentence. Again. Medea's eyes widened. He's in Oakland, being held captive by the giant king, Enceladus. Piper pursed her lips in remembrance of that fight. Thanks. Naruto pushed her down and turned to walk away. Wait. We had a deal. Medea reached for him, trying to get up without triggering an explosion. I never said I'd save you. I said I'd help you, Naruto said, giving her a frown. But you can't be helped. You're too bitter at the core. Indeed she is, Reina nodded in agreement. No, 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 Medea's voice followed him as he jumped out to the roof. Don't leave me behind, not again. I'd almost feel sorry, almost, Aphrodite said. There, Piper pointed at Naruto's form. She and Jason reached out, catching Naruto's staff and hoisting him onto Festus' back. Naruto used his chakra to cling to the dragon as it sped away just before Medea's maul exploded behind them. Well, that won't end up on the news, Dionysus sarcastically said. The shockwave nearly knocked them out of the sky, but within a few minutes, they were sailing steadily once again. So, that's a maul, huh? Naruto asked. He grunted as he readjusted himself before coming to a conclusion. I don't like him. I agree. Jason nodded. Death traps. Great, they'll never go to one again. Piper sighed out jokingly, getting a smirk from her boyfriend at her antics. Leo snorted. Talk about an understatement. He reached down and patted Festus on the neck. Good job, Festus. You did an awesome job. Festus made a shuddering sound, clicking and popping that made Naruto arch a brow. He wanted to ask if everything was all right with their rescuer, but was unable to because of Mew landing on his thigh and chirping worriedly at his arm. Deciding that Leo would undoubtedly handle whatever was wrong. Well you see, Leo trailed off uneasy-like. He focused on his own airborne friend, petting her reassuringly. I'm fine, Mew. I'm fine. Naruto hushed her, listening in on Jason and Leo ask Piper about her dad. She clammed up rather quickly, making Naruto frown. He realized that while she wanted to save her father, she wanted to put the world ahead of her and not thinking about it was as good as it would get. Naruto kept quiet about confirming where her dad was, seeing as it would only distress his sister more. Piper had mixed feelings about that, but the quest was very important too, so she guessed he was going the right thing, but still it was worrying when it had happened. He instead focused on the red potion in his hand. Heals any injuries, huh? Naruto looked at his broken arm. It should heal naturally. He leaned forward and tapped Jason on the shoulder. The younger blonde turned and looked at him, blinking in surprise when the red vial was held up in front of him. A bit too early, Hera frowned. Here, Naruto said. What? Jason looked at the vial being offered to him. That's the all-healing potion, the one that can cure anything, including amnesia. Naruto held it out further. Take it. Isn't that sweet of him, Jason? Piper smiled. It is. The blonde boy nodded. What? Jason looked flabbergasted. But your arm will heal, Naruto said. He pushed the potion forward. Take it. You need it more than I do, Jason said. Oh gods, stop acting so selfless. Leo threw his arms in the air. Blondes were too noble at times. He saw how painful the break was, and Naruto was a heavy hitter. They were going to need him, especially if they were going to run into the king that was going to separate one of the two children of Loe from their group. Smart thinking, Reina agreed, and from what she had seen of Naruto, he very much was the group's heavy hitter. Naruto looked annoyed. Look flyboy, do you want to drink it yourself or do you want me to help you? I don't need it. Jason fought back any sign of lying that was on his face. Something told him that Naruto needed to be at his peak in the coming days. Naruto opened his mouth to argue some more, but Jason cut him off. Okay, look. You drink half of it now, and I'll drink half of it later. After the quest. I don't want to be distracted. All for the mission, Frank said as the Romans nodded in agreement. Naruto arched a brow and looked at Piper, who was resting her head on Jason's chest. Oh, the comings of Jasper, Aphrodite sighed as the couple in question flushed. Before meeting the other blonde's eyes once more, distracted, right? I mean it. I'll drink it after the quest, Jason said. Naruto frowned a bit but sighed. He leveled a glare on Jason. You're sure? You drink half, Then I'll drink half, unless someone else gets even more injured, Jason said. Smart, Poseidon commented. Seems your legacy wasn't on the ball with that one. Silence, Poseidon. Athena frowned, unhappy that her legacy was all buddy-buddy with a Roman. Fine. Naruto tilted the vial forward. Uncork it? That, I will do. Jason grabbed the cork and pulled it off with a pop. Naruto pulled the vial back, sniffed it and shuddered. It smells horrible. He sighed and lifted it up. Bonsai. He tilted the vial back and opened his mouth, letting the red liquid pour into his mouth. Jason took the vial and corked it. Back up before Naruto drank the whole thing. The whiskered blonde coughed and hacked, holding his throat. He felt a fire burn down to his arm and there was a sickening snap that had him biting into his other arm to keep from screaming or biting his tongue. When the pain abated, Naruto removed his mouth from his arm, ignoring the bloody mark that immediately burned before healing. That's some magic potion, Percy whistled, far better than the one that turned him into a guinea pig, that was for sure. Guess it has a lingering effect for a bit. Naruto pulled his arm out of his sling and flexed his hand. Cool, good as new. That was gross. Leo scrunched his nose up in disgust. It really was. Piper scrunched up her nose. Leo, why don't you get some sleep? Jason asked. I'm fine, Leo said. Naruto saw his head bob lightly. Jason can take the reins, Leo. Naruto stood up and looked out in front of them. Has that always been there? The vapor trail. So you can see it, too? Zeus grumbled at that while the daughter of Sky and Sea smiled smugly at her child's gifts. Why didn't you say anything before when we were talking about it? Jason asked. Naruto shrugged. I was preoccupied with the searing pain in my arm. Oh, right. Jason looked at Leo. He's got a point. I can see the vapor trail and you're not a machine, Leo. Leo the cyborg, the mechanic, rubbed his chin in thought. Don't even think about it, Hephaestus told his son. While he loved machines, turning yourself into one lead to bad things. Just look at all those movies on the subject. All right, fine. Leo said, handing the reins back before falling forward, wrapping his arms around Festus' neck. Wake me if there's trouble. You'll be the first to know. Jason nodded. A few seconds later and Leo was asleep, leaving the two blondes to themselves. You're not that bad at fighting, Naruto said after a few minutes of silence. Jason turned around to look at him. Ooh, he noticed. Annabeth grinned at her nephew, her mother pleased as well. What do you mean? You've had training. Naruto narrowed his eyes. Good training. Roman training, Frank grinned. When I wasn't trying to beat you into the ground, you had me on the ropes. Not really, Athena said quickly, her legacy dominated that fight. He seemed to have nearly gotten him in the end, Reina commented. But it was stopped. Still counts, Poseidon corrected his rival, getting a gray-eyed glare. Was I really that good? Jason asked. Naruto hummed. Hard to tell. Can you destroy the tip of a mountain with a single bolt of lightning? No, Jason answered. His father could. I don't know. That's something to look into. Naruto stroked Mew's beak. So what do you remember? Not a lot, Jason said. I remember flashes of my sister, my name. A bunch of Roman stuff, too. Naruto's eyes narrowed in thought. He'll figure it out, Annabeth assured knowingly. Naruto was smart like that. Yeah. Jason drifted off into his thoughts. Well, I'm going to get some shut-eye. Healing broken arms can be more exhausting than you'd think, Naruto said. Jason nodded and Naruto lay back, resting against Festus' flank, his eyes drifting shut. Naruto's eyes snapped open and he sat up, the water he once lay in rippling as he did. Damn it, Jay, we let you drive for 1 minute, Leo shook his head. He's dreaming, the blonde frowned as his elf-like friend just grinned at him. He shook himself free of the water and got to his feet, patting himself off before looking around at his mindscape, the place where his and Kurama's minds could meet. The sewer his mind chose as a backdrop once unnerved him, but he had come to terms with it a while ago, understanding that it was a representation of the loneliness he had endured for the beginning of his life. My poor baby, Aphrodite sniffled, her heart clenching at that. No child of hers deserved that. Naruto frowned. He was a bit annoyed he didn't appear right in front of his slumbering friend and partner. With a forlorn sigh, Naruto began the long tedious journey to where Kurama resided. Along the way, Naruto looked at the walls, which reflected with familiar faces. These are. Naruto stopped and lifted his hand up to one that had a blond man wearing a white cloak trimmed with red flames. The image came off the wall and appeared before him, his father standing before him with his hand outstretched. Athena smiled to see her son, even if it was an image. "You will find the answer, I believe in you," Minato Namikaze said, the image bursting into fragments before it reappeared on the walls. "That's certainly interesting," Apollo rubbed his chin. "Huh, that's new," Naruto said. He swallowed down the lump that formed in his throat. He walked on and stopped at the image of his mother, reaching out to that. "Don't apologize." Naruto smiled at the look on his mom's face, surprised as his past self spoke to her. "I had a lot of hard times growing up as a Jinchuriki, but I never blamed you or dad. I couldn't understand a parent's love because you guys were never there, so I could only guess. But now I know. I live because you and dad gave your lives for me and filled me up with love before the nine tails was inside me. So here I am, happy and healthy. I'm glad I ended up being your son." Aphrodite gave a true smile at that, her heart warmed greatly by her son's words. "Still am." Naruto grinned to himself as he trudged on. Another face on the wall appeared and Naruto's grin widened. "Nagato. You are an odd kid, you remind me of myself when I was young." Nagato looked back at him. It was still so surreal how this was the true form of pain, the self-proclaimed god that had destroyed Konoha in a single blow. That got some dirty looks from the actual gods in the room. And here he was before he died. "I couldn't believe in what Jiraiya believed in, nor believe in myself, but you chose a different path. In you I can see another future. I will believe in you." Annabeth smiled and took a side look at her boyfriend. They really were alike, him and Naruto. Getting people to believe in them and be true heroes. Naruto smiled as he continued to stop and look at his memories before he came to a much more recent one that he cherished the most during the war. Reaching up, Naruto pressed his hand on the shimmering gate before it moved like a picture and he remembered what he said to his friend. "You're not the monster fox anymore. You're one of my teammates from Konoha. You are Kurama." Naruto remembered throwing the cage doors open, merging himself fully with the nine-tailed fox. "Now that is cool," Percy whistled. The memory ended and returned to look like Kurama's second seal. Naruto lifted his hands to it and threw the gate open, causing it to shatter and fall into the water while he walked past. It reformed once he was in the main chamber and the smile that was on the son of Aphrodite's face had fallen. "Ah, it's dead," Ares frowned. He loved that thing, it was funny. "Kurama." Naruto walked forward and put his hand on the large kitsune's muzzle. The vibrant orange fur was now a light gray. "It's so old," Apollo whispered, "maybe they should just put it down." And were it not for the light puffs of air escaping Kurama's snout, Naruto would be concerned his friend was no longer with him. Naruto rubbed the muzzle affectionately. "Come back, Kurama, I need your help." "Naruto." Naruto looked around, hearing his name echo. His brows furrowed together in confusion. "Imouto?" "Naruto, wake up." "Way to ruin a touching moment, Piper," Hazel mock frowned. "Hey," Piper glared in mock anger. Naruto's eyes flew open and he took in his surroundings. "What's going on?" "Festus just took a dive," Piper screamed, which was understandable since they were plummeting. Eyes look at Leo, except Jason and Piper. "Hey, it wasn't his or my fault," the Latino scowled. Naruto nodded and looked at Jason. "Get them to safety," he said, grabbing the one kunai he had with him and using it to cut Piper's strap and then Jason's. He walked up to Leo's seat, but the son of Hephaestus held a hand out to him. "No, I can fix it. Just go." "In midair?" Frank questioned. "I'm good with my hands." Leo huffed. Naruto looked Leo in the eyes and then nodded. "I'll meet you down there." Instead of jumping up, Naruto jumped off and plummeted down, ignoring Piper and Jason calling his name. Naruto lifted his thumb to his mouth and bit down hard, drawing blood. "Please let this work, please let this work, please let this work," Naruto prayed to himself as he flipped through the hand seals he had memorized so long ago. Clapping his hands together a final time, Naruto threw his right hand out and wrapped his left hand around the wrist. Kachiyose no Jutsu. Summoning Jutsu, Apollo translated. What's he summoning? Percy questioned. Smoke exploded from his hand, enough to cover a large building. A golden beam shot at the smoke, but a giant ball of water shot out and extinguished it. Naruto landed with a grunt atop a red and wart-covered head as more beams fired, only to be extinguished in the same way. The owner of the red and warty head landed on the ground with a huge crater, a hole-filled dragon crashing down nearby as the lasers were taken mostly offline from the impact. Who dares summon me in a battlefield? A deep voice asked. Boss Toad, Naruto said happily, making the enormous Toad look up at Naruto with golden eyes. My baby summons frogs, Aphrodite cried out with horror as Artemis was holding her sides in laughter. Quiet the handsome creature, Aphrodite. Silence you, the love goddess glared. Gaki. A pierced tongue slipped out of the giant toad's mouth and wrapped itself around Naruto's midsection. It unraveled. After setting Naruto on the ground, the toad blinked before grinning around his pipe. Well, the savior of the world and the new sage finally deems me worthy to be summoned? Savior of the world? Percy pouted, that was his shtick. Sorry, Gamabunta. I didn't want to risk you guys getting eaten by Madara's tree, Naruto said. He held a fist out to the boss Toad. Are we still good? Gamabunta scrutinized the blonde for a minute before his four-webbed fingers curled into a fist and pressed lightly against Naruto's. Toad bump, Apollo said with a nod of respect. Only when you have that drink of sake with me back on Mayuboku. I wouldn't mind some of that. Dionysus smacked his lips, it sounded good. Right. Sorry Gamabunta, Naruto said with a bow. Next time just summon Gamakichi or Gamatatsu, Gamabunta said. He looked around and narrowed his eyes. I don't like this place, it does not feel natural. The gods glared at that, it was natural to them, and that's all that mattered. I hear you, Naruto said. You should probably dispel and tell Ma and Pa that I'm okay. They might just reverse summon you or themselves, Gamabunta said. But you're right. This place is wrong. No chakra, no energy, no life. Not our fault. Hermes cried out. Kinda, Hephaestus argued half-heartedly. Goodbye, Toad Sage. Come to the mountain for the sake soon or I will make our arrangement null and void. Yes sir. Naruto grinned as he saluted the Yakuza like Toad Boss. Gamabunta nodded again before exploding in a large cloud of smoke, disappearing from the world. I liked him, Ares said. He seemed like a cool animal to fight. Naruto. The whiskered blonde turned to smile at his sister and Jason as they landed near him. Hey Imouto. Flyboy. He smiled at them. Was that a giant frog speaking Japanese? Piper asked. It is a lot to take in, Hazel nodded in understanding. First of all, he's a toad. Naruto gave his sister a light glare for the mix-up. It vanished as he continued. And to answer your question, yes. Yes it was. You can clone yourself and make giant frogs. Honestly, Piper, Annabeth Mock sighed, it's clearly a toad. Whatever, the charm speaker rolled her eyes. Toads appear. Pretty much, Naruto said, leaning against his staff with a smile. Mew landed on his shoulder and he smiled at her. Hey Mew. You okay? Mew crooned at him and his smile widened as he gave her beak a light stroke. Good. I'm glad you're safe. Is any part of you normal? Piper asked, looking at Naruto in complete disbelief. I wonder that too, the son of the sea said. Naruto looked back at her, then to the sky as he thought about it, before shrugging. When it came to ninjas, he was considered the strongest person. Ares grinned but his girlfriend frowned. No, she told him sternly. Ah, the god of war whined and crossed his massive arms with a pout. When it came to camp, he was definitely the strangest. So when you really thought about it, nothing about Naruto Uzumaki screamed, normal guy walking. Not even the orange, Piper shook her head. Or ramen, Hazel added. Leo. Jason's voice had the two children of Aphrodite rushing up the hill of the crater after the son of Zeus. They made it too. The top and found Jason pulling pieces of the weakly whirring Festus away from where Leo was. They saw holes in the body, all coming at angles that would ensure that Leo wasn't hit. He protected Leo, Naruto said sadly as he walked over to the dragon and crouched in front of the head. His hand went out and lightly brushed over the bronze dragon's crown, the flickering eyes seeming to look up at him as he did. Naruto smiled as he caught the unsaid words. I promise, TT Ibeo. Ah, thanks dude, Leo smiled. That was cool of him to know what Fetus was saying. Festus. Naruto stood up and backed away as Leo frantically crawled over to his dragon's head. No, 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 you can't leave me. He'll come back, Piper said knowing as Leo grinned. Oh yeah he did. Festus started to whir and click, much like he was purring from Leo's attention. The son of Hephaestus let a few tears shed as he pressed his forehead against Festus. Gag me, Ares muttered and got a glare from his fire brother, which he returned with the middle finger. Jason and Piper watched silently, unsure of what to do, but Naruto stepped forward and knelt next to Leo, a hand on his shoulder. He was a fine dragon, Naruto said softly. The best one, ever, Leo added. He was the best thing I ever fixed, Leo said, looking at the fading light in Festus' eyes. Leo choked back a sob when the light extinguished and Naruto squeezed his shoulder in. Support. Taking a few deep breaths, Leo looked at the head in his hands before looking up at the sky. Hephaestus, please, if you can hear him, take Festus' head back to Bunker 9. It was quiet for a moment before the head floated out of Leo's hands into the night sky. Done. The Smith god gave a sad sigh at the loss of a fine machine. At least Leo reused him. Naruto blinked and grinned. That was cool. Yeah, Leo said, looking downtrodden. He looked at his dragon's remains, scowling as he shuffled through them. This wasn't Festus' fault. No, it wasn't. Naruto agreed and looked over to where the strange metal tubes stuck out from the ground aiming at the sky. Most of them were unhinged or destroyed by Gamabunta's landing. Who has laser beams? Frank asked, since maybe they could get some around New Rome. It seemed like a nice idea to invest in. The shinobi narrowed his eyes. Something tells me that the cause of Festus' death is over there. Leo gained a fierce look and walked over to the wrecked gate, grabbing the chain links of the fence that blocked his path. The metal superheated in his grasp and he ripped it down. Wow, Percy muttered, he'd never seen Leo so mad before. He then grabbed one of the cannons and tore it open, using a screwdriver he pulled from his tool belt to pull out pieces of it. What are you doing? Jason asked. These things shot beams that were able to tear through. Festus' wings like they were made of butter, Leo said. His hands moved like they had minds of their own, something assembling in his hand before Leo smirked as he held the small tube-like contraption in his hand. He pointed it at one of the other cannons and pressed a button on the edge of it, a beam of gold firing from the rim of Leo's new toy and blowing the cannon to smithereens. I want it, Ares gushed, that was freaking awesome. I want one, Naruto said, pouting in jealousy. Smart boy. Ares nodded. We don't have time, Jason said. He glanced at Leo apologetically before he spoke. We lost our ride, we need another. We'll get one, Leo said as he rested his tube on his shoulder. The rim of the device smoked lightly. Can we trust you to watch our backs? Naruto asked, recognizing the look in Leo's eye. He had seen it many times before in Sasuke's and even his own eyes. Hey, Leo protested with a frown. Of course. Leo frowned at him. Naruto narrowed his eyes slightly but sighed and looked to Mew. Can't blame him, but I guess I'll just have to stop him if he does anything rash. What do you mean? Piper asked, hearing the soft conversation Naruto had with his eagle. Nothing, Imouto, Naruto said, tapping her forehead and making her pout at him. Piper crossed her arms. She hated when he did that. He turned back to Jason and gestured with his staff. Lead on, Flyboy. Well, Hazel smiled. That was a good read. Who's next? I got it, Nico said with a shrug. Might as well get it out of the way. Chapter 9 Disclaimer. I do not own Naruto or Percy Jackson. Phyllis de l'Amour. The Lost Hero. Chapter 9. The Golden Mansion, Campfire Stories and Party Crashers. Nico cleared his throat as he began to read. Leo took great joy in destroying the cannons that had shot down and killed his dragon. Naruto watched him carefully. The son of Hephaestus had a lot of anger and self-doubt wrapped up within him, and it made Naruto worry. Hey, Leo frowned, don't psychoanalyze me. He's just watching out for you, Leo, Piper said. I know, but I don't like it. Right now, even if he didn't show it, Leo was walking a thin line. It was understandable, but Leo had to keep his cool. There were also many traps that Leo had sniffed out, like he was an Inuzuka dog after a Nukanen. It amazed Naruto how efficiently and quickly Leo could disarm the traps. It also gave Naruto a good chuckle when Leo had to grab the back of Jason's shirt to keep the blonde leader from activating a trap. "Thank you, Leo." "Meh, no prob." The Latino shrugged off. Although Naruto had to admit these traps were a better quality than what he was used to, normally it was paralysis seals. Hidden kunai launchers, senbon shooters or even explosive tags, that was all he had to look out for normally. Huh, Ares rubbed his chin. Those sounded nasty. He liked it. In comparison to that, an explosive doorbell seemed a bit much. And that was if the poor person approaching got past the trapdoor, poison, spiked floor, lasers and the giant log that was hooked on a swinging rope. Kankuro would love this guy, Naruto said as he investigated the poisonous handrail with a few curious sniffs. "Lick it," Ares grinned, getting a glare from his sister and girlfriend. "Who?" Piper asked. "One of my friends back home." Naruto coughed and shook the nausea away. "He's a poison master." "We really need to have a talk about your home, Naruto," Piper said. "Greek gods are one thing, but an island of ninjas, continent," Naruto corrected her. "My head hurts," Piper said, rubbing her forehead and closing her eyes. "It's a lot to process." Annabeth nodded in understanding. It was still weird to her, to be honest. "Doors open," Leo said, numb to the world outside of him. "Good job, Leo." Jason complimented his friend with a pat on the shoulder. "You're awesome." 1. "No, I'm not. If I were, I would have been able to keep my dragon in the air and not lost control of him," Leo said, frowning. "You're being a bit hard on yourself," the Smith god said, but his son still frowned at losing Fetus the first time. 2. "The door was unlocked." "Wow, what an idiot," Percy said. "Who left the door unlocked?" "Really?" Piper asked. "Too secure in their security," Naruto said from his spot on the porch. He frowned and tapped Mew on the side of her beak to gently wake her. "Go to the trees, Mew." The eagle tilted her head and cawed before taking flight, flying off to the nearby forests. Naruto held his staff tightly as they walked in, eyes narrowed. He stopped and stumbled once they hit the main room, Jason helping him remain upright. "I'm okay, I'm fine," he said. The other could tell he clearly wasn't, but he didn't want to worry them. Instead he looked around the room at the Greek statues, walking over to the girl frozen in horror. The other statues were screaming in anger and fear. It surprised him how much negative emotions could be in one room. "Oh great, this one," Apollo muttered as Dionysus sipped his Diet Coke a take bit too innocently. Jason had them set up camp in the room since it was too cold outside to do so. Naruto carried the cage that held the storm spirits over one shoulder, having to resort to sage mode so he could. Mew flew back to him, but he sent her off. He didn't want her in the mansion, it was too dark. "How about some light, Leo?" Jason asked. Leo held his hand out, but nothing happened. "It's not working." "Okay. Who forgot to gas up the shrimp?" Ares questioned, getting a few glares as it laughed it off. "What? Why isn't it working?" Piper asked. Naruto winced as Leo's anger filled the room. He dropped sage mode so he wouldn't have to feel so overwhelmed. "Well gee, if I knew that." "Never mind, I see your point," Piper said, cutting the irate son of Hephaestus off. She curled up on one side of the couch, holding her arms and shivering. Naruto pulled his jacket off and draped it on her before she could protest. "Ah," the mother cooed as Piper smiled softly at the action by her brother. He went back to the horrified statue, leaning his staff against the wall, and then sat in front of the girl, meditating while Jason and Leo talked to each other. "Help us. Save me. I won't tell another soul, I swear. Daddy, no." "Oh dear," Aphrodite frowned. "He can feel all that?" she fretted. "Seems so," Athena frowned. "Empaths seem to always end up in terrible places for their gifts." Naruto breathed in deeply before exhaling. He looked up at the girl with a frown. Whoever did this needed to be stopped. Naruto's eyes went to the window when he heard Mew's cry. He narrowed them and got to his feet. "Naruto?" Jason asked, looking at the blonde tiredly from where he lounged on the couch. "Where are you going?" I'll be back in a bit, Naruto said as he grabbed his staff, stepping outside and shivering as the cold Omaha air rushed in at him. He should have at least taken his jacket back, Piper frowned in worry. He shut the door and walked down the steps calmly, looking up at the sky where Mew circled overhead. Naruto held his arm up and the eagle swooped in, landing on it expertly without causing him any harm. "What's wrong, Mew?" he asked. The eagle turned her head to look into the woods and Naruto frowned before looking back at her. "Show me what you found." Mew took to the sky once more and Naruto followed after her. She bobbed and weaved through about 2 clicks of tree foliage before she landed on a branch and gave a cry. Naruto jumped up to the branch, jostling her and making her fly off only to come back and land on his shoulder with an offended cry. "Sorry," he smiled apologetically to his friend before looking ahead at what Mew led him to. What the heck? In front of him were hundreds of golden trees that twinkled in the moonlight. "Why that donkey-eared fiend?" No offense, sister," Demeter said to Hestia. "None taken," the Lady of the Hearth assured softly. Thank goodness it wasn't daytime or Naruto may have been blinded, like that time he stared at Apollo's cabin for too long. That was a fun bet to win against Travis, but man his eyes hurt like no other afterwards. "Hey," Apollo snickered, "that was a fun little test." "Golden trees." Naruto frowned and dropped to the ground, landing quietly in the soft layer of snow. He walked over to the nearest tree and put his hand against the bark, his eyebrows shooting up in surprise. "Whoa, it feels like a normal tree." "Cold." Naruto's eyes went wide. The trees were emoting, not unheard of, but very rare, even in Konoha. "Oh, that poor dryad," Demeter frowned. These trees weren't natural, they were made by someone. He pushed past the cold feeling, grabbing onto the warmth that lay beneath. "Who made you?" Naruto asked himself, his eyes closing. He gasped and stumbled back as a vision of a woman dressed in green and golden robes smiled at a satyr with unnaturally long horns. "Whoa, a sanctuary of Pan." "Another one?" Hermes smiled sadly, that was good to hear. Naruto had heard of them from Grover and had been asked by the new Lord of the Wild to keep an eye out for them. He never expected to find one. The blonde walked through the golden trees before he came across a small grove that was bare of gold. The green was fading around a sunken cave and Naruto cautiously walked in. Saber-toothed tiger, Percy guessed what could be in there. He got a swat from his girlfriend. "Nah, a whole flock of dodo birds," Nico snickered as he continued. "Hello." Naruto called into the darkness. What he wouldn't do to have Leo at his side. There was some clacking across the ground and Naruto tensed, grabbing his staff with both hands in preparation to separate it. What came out of the darkness was something that caught the son of Aphrodite off guard. Its head was about chest height, but its body was huge. The coat was a light sandy brown and 2 gleaming golden eyes looked back at him. It was a giant lion, about the size of Akamaru with paws that had to be the size of his head. "An American lion, Artemis odd." Ares scratched the back of his head, "They dead right?" "Yes." Artemis scowled but turned back to the image. "Pan must have saved them," she praised. "That's my boy," Hermes smirked. Hello," Naruto said, lowering his staff to his side, though he was still tense. The lion tilted her head and Naruto swallowed nervously. "Sorry if I disturbed you, I saw what happened to the forest, and you're here still, so." "Wait." Starting to back away, Naruto stopped at the empathic plea. He looked back at the tired eyes of the lion and relaxed. He held his hand out and let it sniff his hand before it turned and walked back into the darkness, stopping before it completely vanished to look back at him. "I'm coming," Naruto said, walking in after the lion. "Yes, enter the den of lions," Ares said menacingly. They walked for a brief moment before the cavern opened and some glittering stones lightened up the room. The lion opened its mouth, letting out a soft growl. Softer mews came from the back of the room and to Naruto's surprise, 3 kittens came tumbling out from behind the rock. The lioness fell to her side as the kittens came to her side, eager to feed. The goddesses and demi-goddesses couldn't help but coo at how cute they were. "You've got kittens. There must be lasting blessing on the cave." Naruto looked around and put his hand on the wall. "Before he passed, Pan must have found out you were pregnant, or never mind." The demigods went green at that, just thought of it was gross. The lioness kept looking at him before looking to a further wall behind the rock the kittens were hiding behind. Arching a brow, Naruto went to the wall she was looking at and pressed his hand against it. Nothing, Naruto said, shaking his head as he turned around. He looked down and stumbled back. Whoa. A golden lion curled behind the rock, hiding itself from sight. It was a bit smaller than the lioness, but now Naruto was certain that these lions were being protected to repopulate their species. Oh, Demeter frowned. Mother's more animal. You lost your mate, Naruto said, frowning as he knelt down to examine the lion. Its mouth was curled into a snarl and under one paw was another kitten that Naruto missed. Oh, I'm so sorry. And the kitten? Annabeth gasped in horror, the poor thing. The lioness stared at him impassively and Naruto stared back before he snapped his fingers with a grin on his face. I've got it. Leaning his staff against the rock wall, Naruto bit down on his thumb and flipped his hands through some seals before slamming his hand down on the ground. Kachiyose no Jutsu. In a small explosion of smoke, a short green toad with white hair growing outside of its head appeared and what looked like a beard on its chin. It had a dark cloak on and a large club-like staff in its hand. It looks like a big pocket troll, Hermes noted with a snicker. Its eyes narrowed as they locked on Naruto and the club swung up, landing a direct hit onto Naruto's head. Ow. Paw. That hurt. Naruto whined as he rubbed the crown of his head. Humph, serves you right, brat, Paw, or rather Fukasaku, said. He brought his club-like staff back over his shoulder and smacked Naruto across the face. Why that miserable frog? Toad, Artemis corrected the irate love goddess. Whatever, it struck my baby's face. Ow. Naruto rubbed his cheek. That hurt, too. That was from Ma, Fukasaku said. He rested his staff on the ground and smiled. That all said and done, it's good to see you again, Naruto-chan. Is hitting a greeting for ninjas? Taliah questioned, remembering the whole annoying pink girl with Naruto in the Apollo story. I hope so, Ares grinned, making Frank look embarrassed at his father's Greek aspect. Good to see you, too, Pa, Naruto said with a smile, though wincing afterwards. I think you almost knocked out a tooth. Ooh, not good. Apollo shook his head, so not cool. Almost. I must be getting old. Fukasaku glowered over that information. He shook it off in a second. So, what can I do for you, Naruto-chan? Sage training? Bug hunting? No, I was just wondering if you can help me out with something. Naruto stood up, grabbed his staff and walked over to stand near the lioness while Fukasaku hopped onto the rock and watched him. I found her here hiding with her cubs. She needs somewhere to stay until I can talk to her caretaker. I'll explain it more in detail later, but I need to get back to my team. Yeah, we're kinda in a situation, Leo said in mild remembrance. Fukasaku looked at the lioness and her cubs with narrowed eyes before smiling gently. He leapt from his perch and landed in front of the lioness, offering a webbed hand that she sniffed before pressing her snout against. He chuckled. Ah, clever isn't she? She knows the scent of sages. I can explain that, later, Naruto said. He was starting to get antsy, being away from Piper and the others for so long. Something have happened. Something is happening. The trio deadpanned. I promise. Yar, no need, Naruto-chan. I will take her and her cubs to the mountain for protection. When you next summon me I will have Ma reverse summon herself with them, Fukasaku said. He nodded to Naruto. I hope we speak again soon, Naruto-chan. Hi, Fukasaku-sensei, Naruto said, giving a small bow. The toad put his hand on the lioness' snout before they disappeared in a giant plume of smoke. At least they're safe, Artemis said as Demeter nodded in agreement. Naruto looked around the cavern once more as the room seemed to die, walking around to the golden lion and cub. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small storage seal he had been carrying with him, sealing the golden statue away with a frown. They should be able to save them, Jason said since he figured out how to do so. Naruto left the cavern just as it collapsed on itself, breaking into a run that Mew followed with ease. He wasn't surprised. Mew could keep pace with Festus. Keeping pace with him shouldn't be that difficult. Naruto returned to the mansion within 20 minutes, keeping Mew in the foliage until he called for her. He nearly tripped over what looked like a short burly man bending over to eat some grass. Coach. The 7 heroes grinned. Die, the man said, righting himself and running at him with a club at the ready. The horns and hooves told Naruto this was the same satyr that Piper was insistent on rescuing from Medea's Mall of Horrors. He honestly just attacked him, Reina muttered, such a strange fawn. Easy. Naruto caught the club and tossed the satyr away, standing defensively as the satyr pushed himself to his feet. I'm on your side, I'm Piper's brother, from camp. The satyr stopped and looked Naruto over, narrowing his eyes. Just because you wear the shirt doesn't mean you're not a spy. I like him, Ares grinned. Because he brought Clarice to camp? Frank asked. Huh? Oh, that too I guess. I'm the cabin counselor of cabin 10. Why would I be a spy? Naruto asked, almost regretting it as the satyr lifted his club up. Like the last counselor. Beauregard. Yeah, I know how she turned out, he said. That wasn't her fault. Aphrodite cried out as Piper frowned at her protector's words. If you aren't a spy, you wouldn't fight back against me, and I haven't yet. You stopped me from pummeling you, Ares' logic, Athena surmised, getting her brother to grin. That's self-defense, you senile goat. Who are you calling senile, you dirty spy? I'm not a spy, you dumb jackass. And I'm not a jackass, you dumb blonde. I sense a long and lasting friendship forming, Hazel said with a giggle, getting a few snickers from the others. The two of them were glaring so intensely that if one looked closely sparks could be seen dancing between their eyes. Overhead the clouds rolled in before a bolt of lightning came down and broke through the roof of the mansion. That was me. Jason smiled. I figured. Talia rolled her eyes with a smirk on her face. The two turned and watched with horror written on their faces. Imouto. Naruto sprinted past the satyr, who ran after him, and burst through the doors with his shoulder. Just in time to get doused in falling water. Outside the rain came down hard and fast. No. An old guy in a bathrobe cried out as the statues started to revert to normal and stalked towards him. Naruto saw Jason put a sheet over an angry-looking gold swordsman, before grabbing the group's things. That was a hassle, the son of the sky admitted with a tired sigh just remembering the event. Still, you saved up. Piper smiled, kissing his cheek. She got a smile from the blonde for that one. Naruto, thank Olympus, Jason said in relief. Where were you? I found something important. I'll tell you later. Where's Piper and Leo? Naruto asked. Jason looked over at a dry part of the room and Naruto's heart stopped for a second. His sister and new friend were statues of gold, frozen in place. I'd be freaked out too, Percy admitted if he saw his friends like that. Naruto looked at Jason, who put a hand on his shoulder. We can change them back, Midas' curse is easy to fix. Running water, the satyr said behind him. He looked at Jason and nodded to Naruto. You know this idiot? Best of friends. Coach Gleason Hedge, meet Naruto Uzumaki. Naruto, Coach Hedge, Jason said. He grabbed Piper's statue and started to pull her out. Coach, give me a hand. Naruto? Naruto was already moving, spamming clones to grab Leo's statue and taking Piper's statue off Jason's hands. Handy, Talia mused with a grin. What the heck? Hedge started. He was cut off by Jason pulling him along. No time, explain later. Jason ran out of the house, turning back to look at Naruto. Come on, we need to go. The original Naruto turned to where the previously golden statues brought their vengeance upon the old guy in his bathrobe. Be sure to beat, not punch, Ares instructed, don't want to be turned back after all, he snickered. A brief moment of satisfaction crossed Naruto's face before he followed Jason, Coach Hedge and his clones out of the mansion. They ran to the nearby river and Jason instructed the clones to dip the two frozen demigods in the water. Leo went first, going in halfway before he started to revert to normal, falling into the water when he accidentally punched both Naruto's clones hard enough to dispel them. That's nice of you, Leo. Oh shut it, Animorph. He came out coughing, Jason explaining everything as he helped Leo out while Naruto and his clone dunked Piper in. It's not working, Naruto said. Try going complete submergence, Hedge said. Naruto and his clone nodded, moving in to the center of the river and taking breaths before dunking the golden Piper into the water. A few seconds passed before anything started to happen. Unlike with Leo, the process was much slower and more taxing. By the time they were done, Naruto's clone had dispelled from the lack of air. Naruto carried the shivering Piper onto land, shuddering himself from the chill in the water. Great, now he's going to get sick. Piper frowned, worried for her brother. It made her feel like a hindrance back then. Jason came to their side and took Piper from Naruto. We need to leave, now, Jason said over the booms of thunder overhead. What have you kids been using as transport? Hedge asked. ADD dragon, Naruto said between his chattering teeth. It got shot D down a few hours ago. Boo, Leo frowned. Can you fly, too? Hedge asked Naruto. The whiskered blonde shook his head, rubbing his arms and trying to heat himself up. His clothes were clinging to his body, not helping with the chill he felt from the brewing storm. Jason blinked and set Piper down, swinging the golden backpack he had around and opening the flap. He pulled out the cage of wind spirits with a bit of strain before slamming his hand against the side, the spirits turning to look at him. Jason glared at them and a few cowed under it. Zeus puffed up his chest, as they should. He opened the gate and pulled the 3 cowed spirits out, shutting the cage quickly afterwards and jamming it back into the magic backpack. Coach, grab Leo and pull him on one with you. Naruto, you okay to ride alone? He asked, picking Piper up. Thus Tempest was bonded to you, Piper said to her boyfriend, who smirked back. Naruto nodded, his teeth chattering. He was too cold to even think about holding Piper and hanging onto one of the spirits at the same time. Mew flew after him, picking his staff up as he climbed onto the spirit. She dropped it in his shaking hand and immediately clung to his shoulder, the sharp pain heating the limb up as blood flowed from it. Ah, one of the best motivators, Ares nodded in agreement. Onward, Jason said, ordering the spirits into a flight that had the landscape below vanishing within seconds. They didn't fly for long, but soon they were upon what Hedge called the Rocky Mountains. It wasn't as grand as the Hokage monument in Naruto's opinion, but it was impressive. I think it is magnificent, Athena noted with a look of pride, making Poseidon roll his eyes. Whoa. Jason pulled on the cloud-like mane of the spirit. I said whoa. The spirits nearly hit the mountainside, but diverted to a small cave where they made a hard landing. After setting Piper down against the wall, Jason quickly pulled the cell back out and forced them back in, slumping to his knees once they were locked back up. He got to his feet and put the cell back in the pack, looking at Hedge, who was slapping Leo across the face. That got a round of laughs as Leo looked pink in the face. Aw man, so not cool. Wake up, Valdez. A final smack had Leo jolting upright. I didn't do it, I swear. Eyes turned to Leo, who upturned his palms. I didn't, was all he said. That's great, Naruto said, still chattering. Make a DD damn fire. What he said, Hedge said. Sure, yeah. Leo held his hand up and a fireball shot into the dirt, making a rather small fire. Naruto went to sit by it, shivering all the way as he held his arms. Mew sat at his side, rubbing her head against his leg as he sat down. Jason dug around in his pack while he brought Leo up to speed. The blonde demigod tossed the shinobi a folded-up blanket, which Naruto immediately wrapped around himself. Hypothermia, Hedge said, taking a seat next to Naruto and tossing some sticks that Jason tossed him onto the fire. You need to heat up. Get out of those clothes. Enjoy it, girls, Aphrodite smirked, getting a few flushes. What? Naruto asked. Just do it, dude, it'll be like gym class, no one will look, Leo said with a chuckle. More like too scared too. The love goddess looked prideful, getting some green faces from the boys. Naruto stared at him blankly before hanging his head in defeat. He let his blanket drop and pulled the clinging half-blood shirt off, tossing it to the side. His jeans followed and landed next to his shirt. Naruto stayed in his boxers, wrapping himself up even tighter in the blanket and scooting closer to the fire. Sweetie, show a little more. Mom should do the same for McLean, Hedge said. Leo and Jason immediately went beet red. Piper did as well. Touch my sister and I'll CC cut your balls off, Naruto said, trying to be as intimidating as possible despite his shivering. He sneezed and groaned. Great, he hated being sick. This wouldn't have happened if Kurama was awake. Stupid lazy dead thing, Ares shook his head in disappointment. Relax, kid, I'm a teacher. Hedge said. That doesn't make it sound better, Annabeth commented. Jason gave Hedge a blanket and turned away, Leo doing the same while Naruto kept his eyes locked on them, Jason especially. Ooh, Talia smirked as Jason paled. Naruto was very protective. Great, he was going to end up like Percy in the Apollo Naruto story. He knew how fond of the other sex Zeus tended to be, and he was certain that there was a lingering pervert in his son. I am not, Jason cried out with a red face. True, the boy's far more pure in mind than Daddy Dearest, Poseidon commented with a smirk, getting a glare from Zeus. All men were perverted, a true fact of life. Even he was a bit perverted, but not on his siblings or on people he saw as family. Mew shrieked and Leo jumped. Dios mío, what is her deal? She's watching you both, Naruto said, his eyes narrowing. His chattering had finally stopped and he watched Hedge carry his wrapped-up sister to lay near Jason. Naruto's eyes narrowed even more and Jason swallowed. So doomed when you two start dating, Leo snickered as Jason let out an actual whimper. So, who the heck are you, Blondie? Hedge asked once he sat down next to Leo and Naruto. He looked at the eagle, who hissed at him, and glared. Yeah, pleasure's all mine. Naruto Uzumaki, son of Aphrodite, Naruto said, his eyes never once moved from Jason's form. He dropped the blanket slightly and risked a glance at his fingertips. Not as blue as they were before. He sneezed again and groaned before resuming his watch on Jason, returning the blanket to its previous position. Really? Hedge asked. He scrutinized the whiskered blonde for a second. And what's with the cloning thing? Aphrodite become the queen of duplicates when I wasn't looking? Aphrodite huffed. I'll make him look like a clown next time, she said. No, Naruto said. He sniffed and shuddered. Being sick sucked. I'm from the Isle of the Latoids. Now you're pulling my tail, Hedge said. No, Chiron confirmed it, Jason said. He shifted slightly and felt a wave of dread he had never felt before. Oh, I love that thing with the intent, Ares smiled darkly. Man, ninjas had all the fun. He looked at Naruto and saw the slitted eyes that unnerved him in Medea's mall. What is that? Leo asked, looking around fearfully. I dunno, but it isn't good, Hedge said, looking around before looking at Naruto. The source of the dread came from him and he scowled. He picked a rock up and chucked it at Naruto's head, snapping the dread away. Hee, Ares snickered. Naruto turned to glare at Hedge and then promptly sneezed on him. Ah, sick, Hedge said, wiping his face off with his arm. Germaphobe? Apollo questioned. It is gross, Aphrodite wrinkled her nose. Serves you right, Naruto said with a huff before glaring at Jason again. Interrupting my killing intent, stupid. Killing intent? Leo asked, eyes wide. Jason's were wider and his tanned face was paler than normal. Why me? Jason mumbled, shoulders slumped as Piper patted his shoulders in assurance. Naruto wouldn't kill him, maybe hurt him, but that was it. Killing intent is when you force your killing intention onto an opponent. Naruto explained calmly, never once breaking eye contact with Jason. It was one of the things he committed to memory when training with Jiraiya. It paralyzes them in fear and can sometimes be used to cover a whole area. Why are you using it? Jason asked, though he had a good guess. Let's just say that I don't trust you right now, Naruto said. His sisters were gorgeous and he was fine with them seeing other guys if they so choose, so he had no real problem with Piper and Jason being together. However, he didn't trust Jason's lust to keep from peeking on Piper when she was vulnerable. I wouldn't, good boy, Talia patted his head with a grin, getting a grumble from her brother. Jason couldn't say or do anything other than nod. That was freaking terrifying, being able to freeze someone in place while focusing your intent to kill. He'd have to try it sometime, just not when Naruto was around. Okay, you're her big brother and won't let Grace touch her, I get it, Hedge said, sounding annoyed. Yeah, that's Hedge's job. Leo snickered at how much the goat loved to mess with the couples. Knock it off, you're on a quest. Act like it. Fine. Naruto looked down and sneezed again, sitting upright with a groan. I hate being sick. Too bad you're not a son of Apollo, Hedge said, smirking. They usually don't get sick. I know. The sun god pouted, wishing Naruto was his kid again. Normally I don't either, but for different reasons, Naruto said, groaning as he rubbed his nose with the blanket. When Piper started to stir, Leo had just started cooking some food. She started to sit up, but stopped when it felt colder than normal. Looking down, she found herself wrapped in a blanket and under that was nothing but her underwear. Pink, of course. Aphrodite nodded as her daughter's face burned in embarrassment as if it were true. Piper flushed bright red as she looked around. I pulled your clothes off, and before you start shouting, I didn't see anything, Hedge said before she could demand answers. Piper looked at Jason, who she was seated pretty close to, and both blushed before looking away. A low growl came from her left and Piper looked at Naruto, blanching at his appearance. Ooh. Mom, no, just no. Piper glared at the goddess. Nothing wrong with it. Everything's wrong with it. He was clad in only his boxers, a jade necklace hanging around his neck and resting on his defined chest. Had Naruto not been her bother, Piper would have felt okay with calling him hot. Most of you girls here are thinking it, the Lady of Doves said, getting a few blushes from the demi-goddesses. However, he was her brother and so it was awkward for Piper to look at him while he was mostly naked. She instead decided on looking at his face and following his glare to land on Jason. She looked between the two curiously, clearly wondering what happened while she was out. Don't mind him, Leo said with a chuckle. He's just in all protective big brother mode right now. It's sweet of him, Hestia giggled softly. Shut up, Valdez, Naruto said, crossing his arms with a scowl. Piper flushed lightly and sat up, looking at the fire while she pulled the blanket tighter around herself. She bit her lip and looked around. So, the last thing I remember is being chased by an old guy with donkey ears, his hand out and yelling, "You're it." He'd be wonderful at it, Dionysus snickered. Midas touched you, Jason said. He what? Not like that, Naruto, Jason said, looking red in the face. Leo fell back in laughter with Hedge. Piper felt disgusted with that thought and shuddered. Bad wording dude, Percy snickered, getting Jason to roll his eyes. Listening to Jason as he continued. You turned to gold. We had to dunk you in the river. I dunked her in the river and we both got hypothermia, Naruto said, sneezing with an angry growl. I fucking hate being sick. Wow, you got a mouth on you, Hedge said with a laugh. Shut up, senile goat man. Hedge scowled. Make me, you dumb blonde. Hey, Annabeth fumed, damn that stereotype. If I weren't so miserable I'd kick your chew. Naruto sneezed again, causing the fire to blow from the force of it. Great, now my chakra control is going to shit, again. Anyway, Leo tried to bring the conversation back from where it was heading, i.e. nowhere. After you and Naruto got hypothermia, Jason and Coach Hedge used some spirits to fly us all the way to the Rockies. Pikes Peak, Jason said. That's in Colorado, Piper said. We got here really fast. Like the wind, Zeus said, getting groans from his siblings. Not fast enough, Naruto said, grabbing a piece of toilet paper and blowing his nose. He frowned and tossed it in the fire. I swear I got sicker on the flight here. Why did we fly here, though? Piper asked. The vapor trail led here and then thinned out, Jason said. He sighed. I think we lost it. Not quite, Zeus stated to his son with a smile as Jason nodded. Pikes Peak, you said? Hedge asked. He was scratching his beard, nodding as it came to him. Yeah, that's where he usually parks it. Who? Jason asked. Eelis, Hedge said. He usually brings his home around this area, best broadcasting, he says. Yep, Hephaestus nodded in agreement. You've met him? Jason asked. No, just word gets around, Hedge said. Naruto sniffed and grumbled. Food done yet? Almost, Leo said. He shook his head. You are not a pleasant sick man. I can't fight when I'm sick. Naruto scowled. I can't even train when I'm sick. And then there's the hospitals, there's nothing wrong with them. Apollo crossed his arms with a frown. Hospitals? Piper asked. I hate hospitals, Naruto said, sniffing and sneezing. Needles, blank white walls and the smell of bleach. It drives me nuts. Like I'm in a cage of blandness. Apollo fumbled as his siblings snickered at him. What's wrong? Not enough pink. Hedge looked amused at his own joke. Cheeky goat, Percy laughed, that was a good one. I'll skin you, Goatman, Naruto said with a hiss. I'd like to see you try, Whisker Boy. It wouldn't be hard, Runt. You want to bet, Nimrod? I never lose a bet, asshole. Punch him in the face. Ares. Athena frowned as the war god cackled. Stop, Jason said, the two sitting down with crossed arms from where they stood glaring at each other. Boo, Ares jeered, it was getting good too. He shook his head and looked at Leo. You were saying something earlier about something your dad told you? Oh yeah, Leo said. He went on to tell the four about his dream and how Hephaestus jacked it. Zeus glared at his son for that, but just got a shrug. Talking about how Hephaestus had warned him about Festus' imminent death and how some parts can be reused. Naruto looked around the fire as Leo finished and topped off the tofu burgers, his eyes landing on the thoughtful Piper. A few seconds ticked by and Piper had yet to say anything other than thank you to Leo when he handed her some food. I have something I need to tell you guys, Piper said. Naruto looked at her and felt a weight drop from his shoulders. She shivered and the wind roared outside. I don't want to keep it a secret anymore. She's in love with Naruto. Annabeth gasped. Annabeth, Piper glared as many laughed at that, so not cool. I couldn't help it, it was just there, wide open, the blonde smirked. We're all ears, Piper, Leo said around a bite of his food. Naruto shook his head in amusement, ripping his burger into pieces to share with Mew. 3 days before the Grand Canyon trip I had a nightmare, Piper said. She stared into the fire, afraid to meet anyone's eyes. A giant, Enceladus, told me he had my father and would kill him if I didn't do exactly as he said. Athena pursed her lips at the mention of her enemy. Hedge whistled. That's a big giant. Breathes fire, too. Not someone I'd want around my daddy goat. Shut it, goat, Naruto said, Mew hissing at Hedge. The whiskered blonde looked back at Piper. Go on, we're listening. At camp, I called Dad from Annabeth's phone, Piper said. She swallowed. All I got was Jane. Piper gained an angry look on her face at the mention of the secretary. That was the mind-controlled lady, right? Leo asked, his head foggy and a bit damaged from that meeting. Piper nodded. Yeah. To get my dad back I had to sabotage this quest. Beauregard all over again, Hedge said under his breath. Naruto caught it and sent a seething glare at the satyr. Damn right, Piper frowned along with her mother. Piper didn't seem to hear him. I didn't know it'd be you two. Enceladus visited me in another dream. He told me you two needed to die. How nice of him, Percy nodded, getting a push from his girlfriend. Nothing about Naruto? Jason asked, his brow furrowing in thought. No, Piper said. I don't think he knows about Naruto. That's something to our advantage then, Hedge said. Indeed, Athena nodded, Naruto would give them a strong edge. He took a bite of his burger. Continue, McLean. He wants me to lead you two to a mountain, Piper said. I don't know which, but I know it's in the Bay Area. I could see the Golden Gate Bridge. She looked down at her hands. I have to be there by noon tomorrow, on the solstice. Hera frowned at the delay to her rescue, but they still managed to get it done, so it was okay, the goddess presumed. An exchange, Jason said. He ignored Naruto's presence and wrapped an arm around Piper, giving her a light hug. Brave little fool, Athena commented lightly. Piper, why didn't you say anything? We could have helped you. What? Piper looked genuinely shocked that Jason and Leo were giving her apologetic frowns. You've been carrying this for a week? Leo asked. Dang, beauty queen, you should have said something sooner. Yeah, Percy nodded, lying during a quest stinks in the end. Speaking from experience? Piper asked, and got a nod from the sea child. Are you two crazy? I just admitted that I was told to kill you or my dad will die, Piper said, glaring at them. Naruto laughed from where he sat. You're mad at them for not being mad at you? Classic. It really is, Apollo snickered. Shut up, Naruto. Piper glared at him. Why aren't any of you mad? You've saved our lives, Piper, Jason said. He gave her a tight hug for a brief moment, grateful Naruto hasn't hit him with another dose of killing intent. I trust you with mine completely. How sweet, Aphrodite cooed as Reina had a small frown on her face. Same here, Leo said. He held his arms out. Can I get a hug, too? All ladies want to give Leo a hug, Leo smirked, getting dry looks from said ladies. I'd hug you but I'm sort of naked and still a little sick, Naruto said. He still had a grin on his face. Take this a bit more seriously, I probably just killed my dad telling you this, Piper said. No way, Hedge said. He finished his burger and licked his fingers off. Yum. Not bad, Valdez. Anyway, Enceladus needs the bargaining chip still. He'll wait till after the deadline before he does anything. It's how he operates, Athena added. And we'll stop him before then, Naruto said. He gave Mew another piece of the burger. You said he wanted you to divert the quest, right? Well, I may know where the mountain is. Do you guys know what Oakland is? I think he means where, Annabeth muttered. Where'd you learn that? Jason asked. Why do you think I hung back? Naruto asked in return. Jason's eyes widened and he thought of the vial, thinking that was the main reason. What a twist. Apollo Mach gasped, a hand on his chest. I did what I needed to, Naruto said. He had a bitter look on his face. You have to sooner or later, Dionysus said in a clipped tone, glancing down at the demigods. I don't like it, but I know that your dad's somewhere in Oakland. I don't know the area well, Hedge said, frowning. It's bad luck. The Bay Area always has been for demigods. Greek demigods, Talia corrected with a frown, remembering her times in California. No, it can't be, Jason said. He pulled away from Piper and held his head. My head. You all right, Jason? Piper asked in concern. Probably another memory, Naruto said. He opened his mouth to say something more when he froze. The others looked at him and watched his pupils shift into slits. He bared his teeth and the whiskers on his cheeks seemed to darken slightly. Get your weapons, now. We're not alone anymore. Great, this part, Leo sighed out. This was so not good. What, now you have super senses? Hedge asked. Yes, now get your things together. Piper, dress, Leo, Jason, goat, weapons. Now, Naruto said, Mew bringing him his staff. He immediately parted it into his two staves and climbed to his feet, shaking the spots away from his eyes. The hypothermia was still affecting him. We'll protect you too, Jason said as he and Leo stood at the ready. Leo had his cannon stick out at the ready and Jason had his sword. Hedge pulled his club out and gave an angry bleat. I love that goat, Ares praised. I can smell him, Hedge said. Mew shrieked and hissed, spreading her wings as she backed into the cave further. Hedge nodded. Yeah, they're foul all right. Seems they agree on something, Frank stated. There was a howl that echoed in the cave and everyone tensed. From the forests, several black wolves, larger than any species Naruto had ever seen, walked out of the shadows. Naruto raised his staves defensively, moving up to join the ranks even if he was still a little weak. The largest, the Alpha, came forward with a growl. Jason met the approach with his sword ready and said something in a language Naruto didn't understand. Latin, Reina smiled, at least Juno didn't take that away from Jason. I need to learn some Latin, Leo said as the wolves backed off. What's Latin? Naruto asked. A dead language, Hedge said, eyeing Jason suspiciously. No, it's not, Reina frowned along with the rest of the Romans. His eyes went back to the wolves as they returned. Okay, here's the plan. I'll kill all of them. Why couldn't Pan pick him? Ares questioned. He'd get shit done. Grover's fine, Hermes said, getting a grunt from his war brother. And how do you plan to do that, Fawn? With your giant stick? Don't make me laugh. A new deep voice said. A man wearing nothing but furs walked out of the shadows, his eyes the same red as the Alpha's. He looked at Jason and smirked. Son of Rome, a pleasure. There's that little break in the divide, Hazel said dryly. Can't say the same, Jason said. Oh, it would be if you let us in for a snack. There's no food for you here. Well, technically, Ares trailed off with a dark chuckle. Unless you want some tofu burgers? Leo asked. The man snarled at him and he gripped his hammer tighter. I'll take that as a no, then. Don't know what you're missing out on, Naruto said, getting the man's attention. A daughter of Aphrodite, a son of Hephaestus, a faun and a son of Rome, of Lord Jupiter, we expected, the man said. He pointed at Naruto with a glare. I don't know. You're about to, Athena smirked haughtily, knowing her legacy could take him. Naruto Uzumaki, son of Aphrodite, legacy of Athena and future Hokage. Pleasure's all yours, Naruto said with a grin. The image was ruined as he sneezed. Stupid friggin'. An intro ruined, Hermes said with a thumbs down. Hokage, the man repeated it. He narrowed his eyes. Where are you from? A place called None of Your Damn Business, Naruto said, groaning as he rubbed his nose. It's just west of Go Fuck Yourself. I thought it was right on Disembowelment Street. Ares scratched his head. Insolent little shit. The wolves snarled along with the man. Do you know who you speak to? I am Lyacon. Lyacon? Naruto repeated, blinking a few times before his eyes narrowed and his whiskers darkened even more. You're the asshole king that tried to feed Zeus human flesh. Indeed, the king of the gods scowled deeply, and he tried to kill him, laughable. You know my story then? Lyacon asked, snarling. Zeus killed my sons and turned me into what I am today. A feral Inuzuka, Naruto said. He smirked. I beat one with a fart when I was 12. Wanna see if I can do it again? I would pay to see that. Zeus smiled widely. Lyacon's eyes narrowed even further. Would you care to repeat yourself? I asked if you wanted to see if I could kick your sorry ass like I did a kid when I was 12, Naruto said. He tightened his grip around his staves and looked to Jason, sending a silent message to the blonde. Jason nodded back and started to back up while Naruto advanced. Lyacon snarled and gnashed his teeth before turning to his pack. Capture the son of Jupiter, kill the rest, this one is mine. He's toast, Leo shook his head. Naruto's sick, Leo, Piper reminded him. Oh. Bring it, Fuzzbutt, Naruto said, scraping his staves against each other and making a horrible shrill sound that had the wolves cringing. Jason picked Piper and their stuff up, shooting past the wolves. Leo, Hedge and Mew shot off after them, Hedge and Leo taking out two of the wolves as they did. Get them, Lyacon said to his pack as he started to shift. He stopped at a hybrid form and launched himself at the blonde in the cave. Die. Aw man. A Cliffy? Apollo pouted. Yep, Nico nodded. Hey, Talia, you're up. Nice, the hunter grinned. Time for her grand entrance. Chapter 10 Disclaimer. I do not own Naruto or Percy Jackson. Reading. Phil Stillamour, The Lost Hero. Chapter 10. Beware the King's Wrath. Talia began the chapter, eager for her entrance. Come on, you mongrels, Hedge said, batting away a wolf that got too close for comfort to his hindquarters. Die. No, stab, not hit. Ares shook his head. Great, out of a cave and into the freezing tundra, Leo said. He used his cannon stick to dissuade the wolf that looked ready to pounce at him. The wolf fell back in a roll but hopped to its feet. Damn. Laser-proof wolves suck, Leo pouted. Werewolves, Piper said, shivering. She had barely gotten back into her damp clothes when Jason had picked her up and shot out of the cave like a bat out of hell. Her hypothermia was still afflicting her, and while being held by Jason was nice for her, it was hindering his ability to defend the both of them. I think that is a cute picture, Aphrodite smiled. Silver can kill them. Got it, Leo said, reaching into his tool belt. Silver, 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 double damn. Always carry a silver knife, Reyna stated, since they usually had to deal with Lyacon's ilk. Any other ideas? Bash their skulls in, Hedge said, cracking a wolf across the fac and sending it tumbling with a whimper. Lightning. Piper looked to the son of Zeus. Jason shook his head. I tried already. The snowstorm is blocking anything else from coming. We can only wonder who did that. Hera frowned deeply as Zeus looked slightly embarrassed. Okay. So, think, Leo, said to himself, firing another golden beam at the wolves. He reached into his belt again and pulled out a glass bottle, chucking it at the wolves' feet. It shattered upon hitting a rock jutting out of the snow and splashed on two of the wolves' forelegs. Gasoline is good, Leo grinned. Leo sent a ball of fire at the rock, the fire spreading upon impact to the two doused wolves. They burst into flames and dropped into rolls in the snow. Valdez fun fact. Gasoline is highly flammable. Amazing. Frank rolled his eyes. You're just jealous is all, Leo huffed. I can't hit him if they're on fire, Hedge was outraged. Yeah. Ares nodded with a frown. Yeah, well, count yourself lucky because I don't think I can keep it up for long, Leo said. He fired another shot from his cannon stick and threw another glass vial at the wolves. Leo's right, we're stuck, Jason said. The spirits, Piper said. Jason shook his head. We'd have come all this way for nothing if we can't give them to Elis. Coach Hedge, it's been an honor pranking you, Leo said. And it will continue to be so, the Latino smirked, sending another wolf rolling from his cannon stick and setting another on fire. You've been a thorn in my side since day one, Valdez. Hedge swung his club and knocked a wolf back. Salute, Hermes said. Jason, Piper choked on her words. Jason faltered for words himself, wondering how he messed up. Should he have kept them in the cave? No, Lyacon and Naruto needed that space to fight. Just in case worse came to worse, Naruto could have trapped Lyacon and himself in it. Then there was the sound of whistling and then the sound of tearing squishy cardboard. A gleaming stick was embedded in the side of a wolf. It howled mournfully before falling into a puddle of shadows, a silver arrow in its wake. No need to thank me, Talia smirked as she continued. The wolves turned to the woods and several more followed the first's fate, falling into shadow puddles as arrows flew from the woods. The wolves ran with their tails between their legs, going back towards the cave. Yes, flee little pups, flee, Artemis smiled widely. Hedge huffed and spat at the ground. Damn it, I didn't get to kill any. From the foliage 2 white wolves came out, contrasting with the black monstrosities that had tormented the 4. Following them were hunters in white camouflage. One glared after the wolves and looked to 3 hunters on the left. Get them, she said. The other hunters and their white wolves broke into a run after their quarry. Leo had his weapon down, unlike Hedge who was scowling at the girl. You're not Nightshade, he said. Obviously, Talia rolled her eyes. No, I'm not, the lead hunter said. She stepped forward and pulled her parka hood down. Wild raven hair spiked out and blew lightly in the cold wind as she looked over the group, a silver tiara gleaming on her forehead. Like a pretty princess, Nico snickered, getting got a death glare from the hunter. Electric blue eyes looked them over before spotting the shivering Piper. She looked to the others. Phoebe, take her. You'll have to get through us, Leo said, lifting his weapon. Not the best of words, Talia, Annabeth said. Meh, whatever, the reader shrugged. Easy, Valdez, they're friends. Much as I don't like them for scaring off my kills. Hedge glared at the lead hunter. How are you so sure? Leo asked. Because she's my sister, Jason said as he stepped forward. He handed Piper over to the other hunter, Phoebe, before returning his attention to the lead hunter, Talia Grace. Who told you that name? Talia asked, glaring at Jason. I was born with it, Jason said in a cheeky tone, getting a push from his sister for his mouth. I know it because it's my name, too, Jason said. He stepped closer, hesitant and cautious. I'm Jason, Jason Grace. Jason? Talia's eyes scrutinized his face and she took an equally hesitant step forward, restraining herself from reaching out to touch him. It is you. You have the same scar from trying to eat a stapler when you were 2. Best way to ID your long-lost brother, Percy snorted, check for the scars. A stapler? Leo burst into laughter. Here I thought you got in a fight in grade school or something. Your representative just plummeted. Hedge just nodded as he leaned on his club. Smart boy, staples are good for you. Puts hair on your chest, Ares grinned, right Hef? Screw you. Ah, love you too, ya cripple. We need to get to some cover, Talia said. She looked at her hunters and then back. I can't stay long, but we need to talk. Jason frowned. He wished he could have talked with her longer, to be honest. There's a cave about half a mile down the way the wolves came, Jason said. He looked to Piper, who was being bundled up and fed something from a bottle. Piper's brother. Leo's eyes went wide. Oh, shit. I just thought of something. We couldn't kill the wolves because we don't have silver. And? Talia asked, not sounding all that surprised. We left him to fight the alpha male, Jason said, coming to the same conclusion. Not good, Annabeth frowned with a worried look on her face. Die. Naruto braced himself as the hybrid Lyacon leapt at him, forcing back the concern he had for Piper, Jason and Leo. He fell to his back, using his feet to dig into Lyacon's stomach and flipping the lycanthrope over him into the cave. Nice counter, Frank said, very unorthodox. There was an offended squawk from Mew, who hopped back as Lyakon got to his feet. He glared at Naruto, his eyes red as blood. "I'll enjoy feasting on your flesh," Lyakon said. "Children of Venus always have such tender and juicy meat." "Oh, he so did not," Aphrodite fumed with a heated glare. "Must be all the lotion," Artemis idly commented, getting a glare from her rival. Naruto's temper flared and he folded his staves under his arms, crossing his fingers in front of his face. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. 10 clones appeared at his side and Lyakon grinned savagely. "They're not illusions, more meat for the grind. My pack will feast for days on your flesh." "He wishes," Taliah scoffed, "knowing about those clones." "Not today," Naruto said, one of the duplicates running forward and stabbing with his staves. Lyakon snarled at the offending clone and backhanded it into the cave wall, where it landed face first and dispelled. More clouds of smoke followed, Lyakon ripping through them like tissue paper. "Solid illusions," Lyakon said. He had a deep snarl on his face. "You must be killed, you're too big a threat to our plans." "He wishes he could kill Naruto," Piper frowned. No way her brother was going to go down. "Not the first time I've heard that," Naruto said. He tossed his staves at the werewolf. Lyakon dodged and smirked at him, the smirk quickly falling into a look of shock as he saw a rapidly approaching foot. Dynamic entry, Datbeo. The kick landed and Lyakon flew back into the cave wall. "And he sticks the landing," Apollo cheered. Naruto kept up his attack, running forward with his hand back and a sphere of energy forming. He brought the Rasengan up and prepared to drive it into the Wolf King's chest, only for the lycanthrope to grab his wrist and divert the attack to the side. The wall exploded and when the dust cleared there was a massive crater, Naruto's hand hovering over it. "Dog boy's got some skill," Leo hummed. That was impressive. Lyakon had a gleam in his eye, one that unnerved Naruto. He lifted a clawed hand up to slice through Naruto when a shriek had him turning around. Talons clawed into his face and Lyakon roared in pain, tossing Naruto aside as he tried to fend off the eagle that assaulted him. "Ha!" Zeus smirked. There was a pained cry from the eagle as Lyakon grabbed her neck. He snarled at the struggling bird in HS grip. "I hate eagles." Zeus' smirk quickly fell. "Let go of her." Lyakon looked back at the blonde and caught Naruto's fist as it flew at him. Lyakon tightened his grip around Naruto's fist, cracking filling the air as he slowly crushed the son of Aphrodite's hand. Naruto dropped to a knee with a strangled cry. Percy winced along with his friends. "That had to hurt." "I'll let her go if you so wish," Lyakon said. He slammed the bird into the wall and then tossed her at the fire. Mew. Naruto watched with his breath caught in his throat as his friend went through the flames, landing in a roll, possibly dead. "Why that?" Zeus looked thunderous, wanting to smite the wolfman. "Easy yourself, brother," Hestia calmly said, but her brother barely controlled his temper. His eyes went wild and the marks on his cheeks darkened. "I'll kill you." "I doubt that." Lyakon twisted the fist in his grip and caught the other that was sent at his stomach. He lifted Naruto back up with a savage grin. The strange glint was back in his eye. "You are strong, son of Aphrodite, but not strong enough." "I will make you pay," Naruto said through gritted teeth. "No, you will submit to your new lord and master." Lyakon pushed Naruto's hands back and the feral demigod fell to his knees. "I am the alpha male, the king of wolves. And you, boy," he leaned forward, his pointed teeth gleaming with spit and blood, which was not his own. "You will join my pack." "But I don't want my son to be a furry," Aphrodite cried out with fret. "That's what you're worried about?" Athena asked with a look. "Yes. Frank already fills that spot." The son of Mars nearly passed out from that alone while Hazel flushed a deep red. Naruto's eyes went wide as the sound of splitting flesh echoed in the cave. The pain he felt was worse than any he had ever before, even more than when Kurama was ripped from him. Naruto couldn't stop the scream that escaped his lips as Lyakon bit down harder on the space between his shoulder and his neck, the curse worming its way into Naruto's system. "Oh gods!" Piper looked as sick the rest of the demigods, who turned a tad green as well. Lyakon pulled back, tearing the flesh off and exposing pink muscle as he did, ignoring the screaming blonde. He released Naruto's fists and stepped back as he reverted to his full human form, pulling the skin from his teeth and chewing what remained in his mouth like it was jerky. "That is just twisted," Taliah made a gross face. Why do you think we detest cannibalism? Demeter huffed. It was bad enough to be eaten whole, but being immortal made it all the worse. He watched with sadistic glee as Naruto writhed and contorted on the ground. Yes, it hurts the first time, but what doesn't these days? Lyakon asked. First hangover, murderous. First time in bed, not horrible for us males most of the time, but for bitches? Oh, it kills them. He chuckled. The females in the room glared at the image greatly for that one. Lost in thought, before returning. Yes, and let's not forget the first day of birth, that's psychologically scarring and painful I suppose. But nothing, not even the worst death you can imagine, is as horrible as being turned for the first time. Naruto said nothing, still screaming as his body burned from the inside out. Lyakon popped the rest of the flesh in his hand into his mouth. You know, I'm quite disappointed you're so powerful. Your flesh is divine. He laughed at his own joke. The goddesses related to Naruto looked none pleased. You'll see what I mean when that sister of yours comes back in the jaws of my wolves. I'll let you have the first bite. That twisted bastard, Piper seethed. Can't have you going after the son of Jupiter, now. Naruto's skin started to heal and he started to lose consciousness. It was going black in his eyes, overcasting his vision like a cloud with the sun. Though despite this, he not once stopped screaming. Now comes the boring part, Lyakon said. He squatted down over Naruto with a grin on his face, waiting. I have a feeling he won't be waiting too long, Ares grinned, hoping the kid fought back, it'd be entertaining. Naruto found himself in front of Kurama, on his hands and knees as chains seemed to appear from the walls. They wrapped around his arms and neck, restraining him. Lakin's voice echoed in his head but he didn't listen to the words. Instead, he looked at Kurama. Kurama, please. He felt like he was dying. This had to be it, when Kurama would come back. I need your help. Stupid fox. Wake up. Aphrodite grinded her perfect teeth. Do your damn job, you dumb animal. The gray kitsune did nothing and Naruto let out an anguished cry as a spike suddenly shot through his stomach. Another shot through either of his biceps and legs, pinning him in a subservient position on his knees. Voices echoed around him. Embrace the pack. Embrace the pack. Embrace the pack. So this is how it is done, Reina murmured as she watched on, a frown etched on her lips. Never. Naruto grit his teeth and ignored the pain. He blocked out the voices as best he could. He continued looking at Kurama's sleeping form. Wake up. You stupid fox. Obey your king. Kurama. Serve the Great Mother. It was a new voice, a deeper one. Who's that? Hazel asked as Piper frowned. Maybe Enceladus, she said. You damn stupid lazy fox. Retrieve Jason Grace. No thank you, Jason said. I'm your damn partner, remember. Bring him to me, so that I may revive the Great Mother. And I said it's time you wake up. Kurama's red eyes snapped open and blood-red energy filled the room. Finally, Athena said with pursed lips. Lyakon stumbled back as his new pack member suddenly burst into orange and gold flames. Hey, that's my shtick, Leo pouted. Black pooled around his navel in a spiral. Lines breaking from it to go up his chest and down either of his arms, spirals forming at his shoulders, hips and feet. Two small energy-like horns sprouted from his forehead. Well, that is certainly the sign of the devil, Apollo rubbed his chin. Lust, Artemis said in a snide tone as Aphrodite huffed at her words. And the whiskers on Naruto's cheeks turned into 3 solid black bars. Ooh, he looks good all golden, Aphrodite smiled, a hand on her cheek. Gold really was his color, maybe orange too. Maybe. What in the name of? Lyakon had to shield his face as the energy lashed out and knocked him back into the wall. He growled and got to his feet, glaring as the boy that was to join his pack rolled onto his stomach, revealing a large black spiral on his back, and calmly pushed himself to his feet. Lyakon opened his mouth to speak, but was cowed as Naruto's eyes snapped open. Blood-red orbs a darker shade than his own glared at him, slits acting as pupils. The flame-encased shinobi curled his hands into fists, looking down at them. Incomplete, he said to himself. That's incomplete. Percy gawked, wondering how powerful this Naruto really was. The hands relaxed and he stared at his palms. Two large energy claws sprouted from his shoulders and centered over either hand as the eyes locked back on Lycaon. But more than enough to end you. Lycaon snarled. Insolent whelp. You reject my gift? I'll kill you? Well, it was just refunded, the Lady of Doves huffed. I already have my own gift, Naruto said. The claws hovering over his hands started to rotate and two basketball-sized orbs of blue energy grew in his palms. Udama Suin Rasengan. He slammed the attack into Lyakon's stomach, plowing him through the mountain. The werewolf idly wondered when the demigod closed the distance between them, but focused on screaming instead as he was driven through countless layers of rock to the other side of the mountain. He's drilling him through the mountain, Hazel said in awe. Breaking through had Lycaon soaring through the air until he broke down several trees. His ribs snapped back into place and he coughed up blood as he healed. Resilient, Naruto said as he walked forward calmly. Lycaon got to his feet shakily. I'll kill you, boy, Lycaon said with a snarl. I can die from anything but silver. That just makes you a good punching bag, Ares grinned, punching his palm eagerly for what was to come. We'll see about that. More golden claws of energy sprouted from Naruto's back and hovered over his head. Lyakon's eyes widened as each gained a similar orb as the last two, only this time they were the size of small cars. Try this on for size, tough guy. Shudama Razan Tarangan. Go Naruto. Piper cheered as did the other demigods. The claws came down on Lycaon, the werewolf king screaming in agony as what he thought felt like a shot from the master bolt encased his whole body. What? Zeus frowned. Oh, just relax. Poseidon rolled his eyes. His brother was so picky when it came to his nightlight. He remained intact, but his spine and ribs were definitely shattered. He was broken, but alive, if barely. Huh, and I was sure that was going to kill you. Naruto walked over to Lycaon calmly and looked down at him. Red eyes were wide and gleaming as they looked down into the burning red that the Wolf King had, glaring at the demigod with all of his hate. Naruto scratched the back of his head and sighed. I didn't want to resort to this because of all the nature around us, but you leave me no choice. Obliterate. Ares whooped in glee. Finally, some destruction. Lycaon watched as another duplicate appeared and put his hands over the original's palm. A small black orb started to form and the Wolf King felt his eyes widen in horror. Not much scared him, but he knew when he pushed his luck and needed to get the fuck out of Dodge. That orb was nothing but bad news and it was the last thing he wanted to touch him. It was most likely worse than silver. That's some energy he's holding, the Smith god rubbed his beard in interest. By the time it was the size of a baseball, the clone had extinguished itself and Lycaon was almost back to a point where he could run and regroup with his pack. Naruto was watching him and waiting. Lycaon knew what he wanted. The demigod was mocking him, acting as a predator whereas he would be the prey. Irony at its finest, Jason smirked, the wolf deserved it. This would not stand. He was the predator. He was the alpha male. He was the damn king of wolves. Get up, Naruto said. His eyes were burning with want. Lycaon felt a force overcome him and he obeyed the boy against his will. Charms peak, Reina muttered, looking at Piper and then back at the image. His legs healed and so did his arms. His spine was back to normal. Good, now he could run. You, Lycaon of Arcadia, betrayer of Zeus and king of wolves, are guilty of murder. The demigod's eyes narrowed. I sentence you to death by combat. More like gory execution, we like that more, Ares corrected. Lycaon wanted to laugh in the boy's face, gloat over his immortality being guaranteed, but he couldn't. As much as he tried, he could not move. Any last words? Feeling his jaw loosen, Lycaon couldn't resist. I'll enjoy your sister's corpse when I return. Wow, give it deeper. Apollo shook his head, not a smart play, even if you were about to die. If you return. The demigod brought his hand back and threw it forward, the arm extending to cross the distance between them. Show mini Bijudama. The orb touched his chest and Lycaon burned. Every molecule in his body exploded. Pain like no other, even more than his first transformation, even more than the last barrage, overcame him. Lycaon realized now that this was what being hit by the Master Bolt felt like. It is not, Zeus rumbled, there was no pain, just zap. Nothing. That was it, honestly. The world around him went up in a flash of white, and Lyacon knew no more. Jason stumbled over as the mountain shook, the small group falling to the ground just outside of the cave. Then there was an earth-shattering boom that echoed for miles. Maybe Master Bolt on minimal? Hades suggested. Possible. Poseidon nodded as Zeus glared at the two for comparing his bolt to some power wielded by a child. He helped Phoebe, despite her accusing glares, and Piper back up to their feet. Rockslide. One of the hunters pointed up. The group hurried back to the cave, rushing in as boulders fell down around them. What the hell was that? Talia asked. She looked up through the clouds at the sky, a bit nervous. Zeus looked at his daughter as she ignored him, focusing on the story since she would do that too. Yo, Naruto? You dead? Leo called into the cave. Jason gave him a light glare and followed, nearly tripping over something. He looked down and his eyes went wide. Mew. Jason crouched down next to the eagle and hesitantly put his hands on her chest. There was a soft, barely noticeable beat. Thank goodness, Hazel said with relief. That would have been terrible if Mew died. Jason's eyes widened and he looked to the satyr. Coach Hedge, help. Hedge ran over to Jason's side and winced. Ouch. Crispy. Can you help her? Jason asked. Maybe, I dunno, Grace. Hedge looked her over and then looked at Talia. Hey, you got any, whatcha-call-it, petals of it's a flower that looks like a used tissue? Used tissue? Artemis questioned the healing skills of the satyr. Lily of the Valley? What? Someone having a heart attack? Talia asked. Just give me the damn flower, Buttercup, Hedge said. He did not just call me that. Talia glared at the word in the book. Talia glared at him. Don't call me Buttercup, shortstop. Flower. Now. Hedge demanded impatiently. Talia looked to Phoebe, who tossed her a bag, and then tossed the bag to the satyr. He ripped the sealable top off, tossing it into the fire before grabbing a small pinch of the plucked flowers. He ground them in his hand and opened the eagle's beak, letting the ground flowers fall into her mouth. Grace, he said. Jason and Talia looked at him, though Talia more likely glared. I would. The hunter nodded, and he looked at Jason. You. Rub her throat with 2 fingers, gently. Jason nodded and did just that. While he did that, Hedge went out of the cave into the woods. So, what's with the eagle? Talia asked. You get a pet? Not yet, Jason smirked as Leo snickered at the son of Rome's portable generator. She's a friend, Jason said. He rubbed Mew's neck softly, very loyal to Piper's brother. So it's his pet? I guess so. Why the heck does he have an eagle for a pet? I don't know, Talia, Jason said, sounding a bit exasperated. Yeah, leave me alone, Jason pouted at her sister. Watch it, buddy, I'm still your older sister. You heard other me, Jason. Yes, Talia. His hot older sister, Leo said. Eyes turned to Leo, who shrugged. What? It's true. Never going to happen, Talia grunted. I know, Aphrodite sighed out. Dude. Jason flatly gave Leo a look while Talia ignored him. A few minutes later Hedge came back, whittling away at a new set of reed pipes. He blew into one end and a high note came out. He grunted. It'll have to do. Forgive me if I ruin your eardrums. I've been out of practice for some time. Oh gods, Percy paled, remembering Grover's skills on the instrument on their first quest. The next thing Jason heard was a beautiful flute solo. It tugged at his heart and he stole a glance at Piper, who was looking back at him. Jason looked away and looked at Leo, who was staring into the dying fire. Looking around, Phoebe was focusing on Piper's ankle while Talia was lost in a 1,000-mile stare. It seemed Hedge had ensnared everyone in his music. He's so good, Hazel said in amazement as Frank's jaw dropped. Hedge finished when Mew suddenly shot up from under Jason's hand, back on her feet and looking around. The satyr snorted and scowled. So off-key. My mama goat would tan my hide if she heard that. Are you kidding? Apollo gaped. That was great for someone out of practice? Coach Hedge, Piper said. That was beautiful. You got corn in your ears, McLean. That was crap. It took 3 minutes to bring the bird back, Hedge said, tossing the reeds into the fire. That's why I don't play instruments. I'm no good at it. Okay. I have to chat with Dagai, the god of music said. No way could talent like that not be used. I don't want to imagine what you think good music sounds like, Leo said, turning his head away and rubbing his eyes. Jason rubbed his cheek and blinked at the dampness of it. Ah, music, Apollo smiled, moving hearts for ages. Mew shrieked and looked around before her golden eyes landed on Jason expectantly. Jason looked back at her and shrugged. I don't know where he is. Mew gave a cry before going to the back of the cave, flying back with 2 items in her talons. That's Naruto's walking stick, Leo said. Staff, Annabeth correct. Hey, he's a sage, right? Leo shrugged, walking stick. So where's Naruto? Jason asked. You can find him later, Talia said. Listen, I don't have a lot of time. I need to get back to my hunters and return to my hunt. We need to talk. Jason looked to his sister and nodded, letting her lead him away so they could have a private conversation, plus Leo. Jason needed the support. Not awkward at all, Talia frowned as Leo grinned at her. The water dripped nearby and Naruto woke up sore. He blinked his eyes and looked at the ceiling of his dank and dreary mindscape. He sat up and looked around. Sewer, check. Pipes lining the walls, check. Images of memories, check. Well, it's about time. Naruto let a smile cross his face as he turned around. Giant orange-furred hate demon fox monster turned close friend, check. Finally, good old killer is up. Ares smiled crookedly. I should say the same thing, he said. He held his fist out to the orange kitsune. It's nice to have you back, Kurama. It's good to be back, Naruto, Kurama said, letting a smile cross his face as his massive fist pressed lightly against Naruto's. He likes his bro fists, don't he? Leo asked. Damn right, Apollo grinned as he and Hermes did one. He laid down on his hand like paws and watched Naruto patiently. So, care to tell me what in the name of the Rikudu is going on? So Naruto told him. About the world beyond the elemental nations. The land of America, filled with humans more than nature, something Kurama snorted disdainfully at. The camp of heroes, which again, Kurama snorted at. Hey, the demigods frowned at the fox's dismissal of them. Children of gods, Kurama said, huffing. I'm the son of the six-path sage, the god of shinobi. You don't see me going to a summer camp. Monster camp. Leo cheered with a laugh, getting some snickers. Now, this is how you avoid a celestial bronze decapitation, Percy said in a Chiron-like voice. Oh man, I bet that is so a thing in Tartarus, Hermes laughed. Kurama, there's only 9 of you, me and Sasuke, Naruto said dryly. There's not enough of us for a camp. Marshmallows with the Uchiha? Never. Same, Percy nodded. Oh, come on, lighten up a bit. That was months ago. Kurama glared at Naruto flatly. He trapped us in miniature moons and tried to kill you, again. Water under the bridge, Naruto said, waving it off. He is way too forgiving, Annabeth shook her head. Kurama shook his head. I will never understand you, Naruto. Then came the news about his mother. I fucking knew it. That red-headed whore. Hey, Artemis smirked as the love goddess eye twitched at that. Was eccentric in her seal, chaining me up and piercing my body with spikes. That fucking bitch was the embodiment of love, my antithesis. For good reason, the Lady of Doves sniffed. What I would do to that skank, no offense, Kurama said once his ranting had dwindled down. Naruto rubbed his forehead. A lot taken, but thanks for keeping it somewhat PG. I was rather fond of it. Silence Artemis. Aphrodite glowered. Still, I can't believe you're the son of the love goddess. Kurama drifted off and thought about it before smirking. On second thought, yes. Yes I can. Little peacekeeper, you. Mommy must be so proud. I am. Ares just huffed at that with crossed arms, lame. Shut up, Kurama, and then came the news about his father. You've got to be fucking kidding me, Kurama said dryly. He rubbed his head with his left paw. Let me see if I get this straight. Your mother is the goddess of love. Yep. She split a mortal aspect of herself off into some woman's womb. I guess so. She let that body grow up as a Jinchuriki of me. That probably wasn't part of the plan. I doubt she had a plan, Athena surmised dryly. It never is. Then later on she married your father, who was the son of a strategic war goddess. That's right so far. And then they had you. The reincarnation of the youngest son of my father, the one that rallied people into standing behind his brother's tyranny. A chip off the old block, Percy said in a chipper tone, getting a giggle from Annabeth. Pretty much sums it up. Kurama stared at Naruto for a long while before laughing. God, I love being sealed inside you. There's never a dull moment. He is entertaining, Hestia commented lightly. You're taking all this rather well, Naruto said with a grin. Kurama's laugh died down to a chuckle and he grinned back. I just had nap for several months and got to watch you obliterate a king with my power. Of course I'm in a good mood. I want to drink with him, the story's to be told. Ares laughed with a slap to his knee. Naruto smiled. I'm glad you're back, Kurama. It got lonely without the voice in my head. I am glad to be back, Naruto, Kurama said, settling down on his paws again. He turned serious. Now, as to this quest of yours. Your half-sister's father is being held captive and she has until sometime today to lead 2 other demigods to the captor or her father dies. Yep, but the quest is to save Hera, the queen of the gods, Naruto said. They can't divert or it will mean the end of the world or something. Or something, Hera parroted in a dry tone. Kurama mulled this information over before nodding. We will rescue the father then. Shouldn't I tell the others that I'm okay first? Naruto asked. No, time is of the essence right now. The more time we waste the less time we have to save the human from death, Kurama said. Hey, this sounds like a good plan, Leo rubbed his chin. Plus it's my legacy slaying that foul giant, Athena smirked widely. Now how would her other aid him, and I am not back to full power, so you will be without your Biju form. The incomplete cloak will be enough. Naruto nodded in assurance, and if anything else I can fall back on sage mode. Kurama scowled. Damn toads, useful, but damn them. Ghastly, the love goddess nodded in agreement. Come on, let it go, Naruto said. How can you cooperate with others if you don't get over your past transgressions with them? Kurama went silent for a moment before he smirked. That was a big word for you, Naruto. Annabeth and Athena frowned at the slight to the wisdom legacy. Shut up, Kurama. They held a stern look before both burst into laughter again. The laughter of 2 friends echoed in the mindscape. Hundreds of other memories filled the walls, filled with the sounds of Naruto laughing with someone else. That's really cool, Percy admitted. He wondered what the inside of his mind looked like. An aquarium, Annabeth said, like she was reading his thoughts. Guess you'd have a maze as yours. Not funny, the blonde pouted with crossed arms as her boyfriend chuckled. When they died down, the memories did as well and a comfortable silence filled the air. Kurama held his fist out with a smile on his face, ready to go show the world what real power looks like. Zeus humphed at that. Naruto grinned and pushed his fist back against Kurama's. You know I am. Then wake up, Naruto Uzumaki, and show them how strong we are. Blue eyes shot open and Naruto pushed himself off the dirt-laden ground. He looked around at the giant hole he lay in. Part of the mountain he once resided in was now missing and a good portion of the woods he was once in had been obliterated. The sage pursed his lips at that. Grover's going to kill me, Naruto said, his head hanging. Fear the tin cans of doom, Percy nodded sagely. Not if you don't tell him it was you, Kurama said. I'm not going to lie to him, Naruto said. He looked up and walked to the epicenter of the giant crater that now filled the area. Standing in the middle of it, Naruto estimated it was about 50 meters wide. Nice, Ares chuckled. Yeah, Grover's going to kill me. Enough wallowing over the past. Let's move. Right. Naruto nodded and closed his eyes, focusing on Kurama's chakra and let it encase him, going to the incomplete cloak in a second. He looked down at his arms in awe. I will never get over this. It is rather dashing, Reina admired the golden form. Focus, Naruto. Sorry, he said. He crouched down and shot up, leaving the crater with a mighty jump. He landed about 80 meters away, groaning. Okay, I'm just going to run. Then run, Naruto. Geez, you always talk to yourself? It helps with the crazy, Dionysus commented. Shut up, Kurama. Naruto grumbled as he burst into a run, his arms hanging behind him as he did. Eventually he left the foliage, bursting through to an open plains and shooting through a small town. He ran on the road and passed a giant welcome sign. Behind that was a white car with deactivated lights on the hood. Holy shit! The policeman sitting in his car looking at his radar gun exclaimed. The red numbers were rising after the golden blur shot past. Eventually they came to a stop at 175 miles per hour. I could use an intern. No Hermes, Aphrodite frowned. Her baby would not look good in worker man brown, yuck. The policeman choked on his coffee and looked at the donuts sitting on the dash. They were a day old. He threw them outside of his car. Smart pig, Ares snickered. I'm going back to alcohol. Smarter pig, Dionysus cheered his Diet Coke to the cop. Do you even know where you're going? West, Naruto said as though it were obvious. Okay, new question. Do you know where exactly you're going? Not the smartest fellow, Poseidon commented lightly and got a glare from his rival for it. I figured. Stop at the next small town and ask for a map. Really? Naruto asked, arching a brow. Yes, I don't know the area. So even if you just glimpse it, I should get a bit of an idea what you're looking at because you're using my chakra. I'll break the image down and apply our location. That's really cool, Jason admitted. Seriously, all personal GPS in your head. Just one question. Go for it. Do you understand the language of this land? Naruto asked aloud in English. Fool, you understand it. Your thoughts automatically translate it back to our native tongue and script. So when you look at it, it will translate for me. Fail, Nico snickered. Naruto pouted. No need to be so mean about it. You don't seem to be taking this seriously. I am so taking this seriously, Naruto, you're an idiot. I can relate it, Annabeth said in a wistful tone. Hey, Naruto's pout deepened. He thought they were past that. A naked idiot. Oh no, Piper palmed her face as her mother giggled. Looking down, Naruto felt his cheeks heat up. Kurama was right, he was naked almost as the day he was born. Thank goodness he still had his boxers on, otherwise that would be awkward. No, it's still awkward, he groaned while Kurama laughed. Shut up. Why didn't you say anything sooner? Are you kidding me? You're the golden streaker now, son of the yellow flasher? Kurama was having a jolly good time with this if his laughter was anything to go by. Athena and Aphrodite frowned at that. You know that's not his moniker. Well, not in public but with your mother, she was a kinky thing, I'll give her that. Amen. Ares smiled widely as the love goddess giggled. Many people gagged heavily at that. Naruto tripped and doubled over several times before coming to a halt on his chin. His body bent over his head for a moment before flopping down to the ground. Ooh, the skid marks on that one, Leo winced. He groaned and got to his feet, dusting himself off. When that was done, the golden demigod glared at his navel. I did not want to hear that, I'll bet not, but you have to admit it was funny. I should just ask Octopops if he wants to switch Biju when I get home. No, I like this one. Ares whined. Who the heck is Octopops? Percy asked. I don't know, but I do like the name, the sea god said. He sounds tight, yo, Apollo grinned. Ha. Now who's being funny? You love me and you know it. Like a tumor. I love you too, Naruto. Naruto just grumbled while Kurama chuckled in the back of his head. He continued to run until he got to a small town, stopping in an alleyway. Naruto looked around and as luck would have it, found a door on one of the buildings. Thinking it may be a department store, Naruto walked in. He was relieved to find so many clothes hanging on racks. Anytime, sweetie, Aphrodite smiled sweetly. They were a bit strange though, not something he thought was regular attire. Antony. Naruto killed his chakra shroud as someone called a name nearby. No need to have the government after his ass, if he didn't already, that is. The mist covers that. Hazel waved off the blonde's worry. A mousy-looking man walked around the corner of one of the racks before jumping when he saw Naruto. Well, if Antony is going to be late, you'll have to do, the man said. Spin around. Wah? Several of the demigods questioned. Model agency? Piper asked her mom. The charm speaker only got a giggle. But I'm. Save the butts for later, please. The man glared at him and put his hands on his hips. Now spin. Naruto spun around and stopped when he was facing the man again. Aphrodite giggled even more, unnerving many. A bit shorter than we would like, but well defined. Fine, change out of those ghastly pants. Here, put these on. The man threw Naruto something and Naruto looked at the object. The man tapped his foot. Well? Come on, you're on in 5. OS, I just got it. Apollo let out some laughs as the others were still confused. You're going to watch me change? Naruto asked. Always so shy, the man said, turning around and crossing his arms. Happy? Naruto shook his head and changed as the man requested. When he was done he pulled at the offending clothing. Are they supposed to be this tight? And a rookie at that. No wonder you're shy. Oh gods, Talia blanched at the coming lines. The man grabbed Naruto by his arm and pulled him through the racks of clothes to the front. Come on, we're late. Ladies of the fine cherry bomb's early morning, we give you the last call, a suave voice said from speakers behind the curtain. Naruto was led to stand behind. A male stripper. Athena paled as the gods were roaring with laughter while the demigods either joined or looked a little queasy. Nico looked mildly interested. Hey, how's it going? I'm Todd, said a guy that was taller and a bit beefier than Naruto. He had a rugged face like Naruto had seen on the wall of fame in his cabin. Indeed, Aphrodite bit her bottom lip a little. Naruto. Do you know what's going on? We're partying, man, Todd said. The curtain parted and a bunch of women stared back at them. My brother is now a stripper. Piper muttered to herself. It was her other's job to look out for him. Oh, the cruelties of the fates. My nephew is a stripper, Annabeth muttered to herself. All that potential, and now he was a lady pleaser. Where did her other go wrong? There was a song playing over the speaker. Todd and the other guys started to walk oddly out onto the stage that had poles on it. American Woman, what kind of music is this crap? Naruto just shook his head, frozen like a deer in the headlights. He was in a bar. Yep. Dionysus nodded. He was in a strip bar. Pretty much, Apollo nodded. He was in a strip bar dressed like a stripper. Hilarious, Hermes nodded. He was in a strip bar dressed like a stripper on ladies' night. Make mommy proud, sweetie. Mom, do not encourage this. Indeed, Athena glared heatedly. No legacy of hers was going to be a stripper. Time to leave, Naruto said to himself, searching for an exit. He saw one too many strange dances for his liking and hopped down from the stage, bolting for the door. A woman snagged him by the back of his too tight leather pants. Naruto, the Lady of Doves chided, give the ladies some sugar. Pour that sugar on me, Apollo sang out, but Artemis hit his arm. Ow. What? So called for, he argued, but his twin's glare said otherwise. He gave a surprised squawk as several women, all very attractive in their own way, started to touch him. Rape, rape. Piper cried out for her brother, damn hussies. They also slipped him some money, which wasn't frowned on, but still. They touched him. Everywhere. Lucky bastard, Leo pouted, he'd kill for that kind of action. Thank you. Thank you. Have a nice night, bye. Naruto pulled himself away from the ring of 20 groping utensils, hopped over the bar and bolted out the door. The mental scarring to come, Athena sighed, that was never good. So, I don't want to talk about it. Naruto grumbled as he walked across the street to a clothing store. He was going to break in, change clothes and leave this crazy town. He'll get a map at the next gas station or something. Smart play, Hermes nodded. I can never unread that. Talia shuddered as she held up the book. Who wants it? I'll take it, Athena smirked. Her giant was no doubt to fall in the coming chapter. Chapter 11 Disclaimer. I do not own Naruto or Percy Jackson. Reading. Phil Stillamour, The Lost Hero. Chapter 11. The number one knuckle-headed shinobi. Athena smirked as she began the chapter.